hit subscribe. Subscribe to my guy, Uncle D. Tell him Big Bad sent you.
Spurling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas. An advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father. I have black sons. Hey, man, I do what I do.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. Welcome back. It's good to be here with you all. I'm happy that I can be here on this occasion. I want to give a big shout out to everybody in the chat room. Make sure, if you can hear me, I need you guys to hit the number 1 button because it's been a minute since I've been in here. So I need to know that you all can hear me, okay? I need to know if you all can hear me. Hit the number 1 button if you can hear me clearly. I need you to let me know. All right, we got Edward. He said he can hear me. Jim Brown. Who else? We got Y'all Remembers. Thank you so much, Mr. 43TX. All right, already. All my H-Town people say already. All my East Coast people say, what up, son? Yeah, where my West Coast people at, man, say, yeah, it's hella tight, man. All my folks, whatever your locality is, man. I don't know what people say in St. Louis. Yeah, the folks, somebody say church. Oh, man, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. As you guys know, I am a father of 3 boys, okay, of varying ages. My oldest son is working on his first year at college, working on civil engineering. My middle son is a high school student going into his junior year. And then I have a young son who's but a wee elementary school child. So during the holiday season, Uncle D is on daddy duty. And I have, of course, a beautiful wife. Shout out to my beautiful wife. She was recently honored by, I forget the lady, Cheryl Sanborn, who's a billionaire tech, tech giant from Silicon Valley. And she basically acknowledged my wife and her success. So, Uncle D's a family man. Somebody type family man in the chat room. Somebody type Uncle D is on daddy duty in the chat room, man, you guys. And so, that's why I haven't been live in a little while, and I hadn't been live on a regular basis because, man, I just been raising my kids and enjoying life. You understand what I'm saying, man? But I'm doing good. I hope you all are doing good. How you guys doing? How's everybody out there doing? Huh? You guys feeling good about yourself? There's a lot going on in the world. And I felt the need to get back to what I like to do, and that is talk to the people and try to really lay, how should I say, a foundation or kind of put things into perspective. There are people who listen to me from all over the country, I dare say all over the world. We have people of all ethnic groups, and largely what I present is a perspective of a Black American man. Now, what you all will find is that my perspective as a Black American man is pretty much the same as other men in the United States, and I would dare say men in Western countries. Generally, even men in non-Western countries, if you are masculine, if you're patriarchal minded, if you believe in some of the core values that I believe in, being a good father, being a good husband, being a good family man, being a provider, I'm pretty much that. I am a typical patriarchal prototype American man. That's it. So that's why a lot of people identify with what I say. Okay. And so when I speak, it's not so that you will be offended. I'm just letting you know where I come from. Now, of course, I am a black man. I am very proud to be a black man. I would never want to be anything else other than a black man. I love being a black man, irrespective of how tough it is sometimes, because we always make a way. All right. So, you know, that's where I'm coming from, man. And largely, first started doing this, it's very unpopular to be an advocate for black men. But now I see that the rest of the world has caught up with me, especially America. But either way, we're gonna talk about this year. You know, as you guys know, I was good friends with Kevin Samuels, and I have a big surprise coming up for you all uh, for his birthday, which is coming up in March. And you know, the thing is, it's been several years since he passed away, but as I reflect back on the brother, he has some very poignant and important things to say. For many of you all who don't know, Kevin is the reason that I decided to give up my passport bro activities. Somebody type activities in the chat room. Kevin is the reason I decided to give up my passport bro activities and go ahead and find my beautiful and lovely wife. And so, you know, I will always acknowledge that man for what he did for myself and my family. I was pretty much done. But you know, and actually he and the brother named Obsidian convinced me to join the group. And you know, Uncle D was not trying to do any of that. But you know, nevertheless, Kevin says some very poignant things to me in our private conversations over the short duration of time. And I say short because people go too soon. He said you need to focus more on power and dissecting power, since that's pretty much the area that I delve in. For you all who don't know, I am a practicing attorney, okay? And I have been for 25 years, going on 26 years actually. And so I deal with power. I deal with power. Power, my tools. Power is the way in which I get things done. Influence. These are the things he suggested I do. Brother Kevin also said you'll never have 1 million followers. You won't, but people will always come to your page. They will always take the things you say and they will go off. I am the undercurrent of YouTube, Black YouTube specifically. And if you begin to look back at some of the things that I was talking about several years ago, you will see that many of those ideas have been cultivated and taken. For instance, I could tell that there was a rift existing between Black Americans and Africans, and I realized that at some point we were going to fall out, and that as Black Americans, we better jump ahead of it before the white folk get hold of it. And Black Africans become unpopular, and then the white folks realize the Black folks in America don't really have their back anymore, and they're going to start doing stuff to them. And lo and behold, that's what you see. You see? So, you know, in the hopes to try to mend that fence, I said, well, let's see if we can get them to give us some reparations, or at least threaten to give us some reparations, so we can do what? We can go back home. You see what I'm saying? With some money. But, you know, because white folks are just going to come colonize and take it. That's what they do. That's the history of these folks. Nevertheless, you know, I was on top of that a long time ago. Now, the thing is, as I said, Kevin said you should talk about power. You should talk about that more. I don't ever expect to have 1 million followers. However, I would like to get 100,000 followers. So if you have not liked the page yet, I expect you all to go ahead and hit that like button right now. Okay, and for you all who don't know what right now means, that means immediately. And if you don't know what immediately, that means ahora, okay, in Spanish. But you know, in my general mantra is this: you don't owe me anything. Of course, YouTube is free. You do get compensation from what they have, those advertising dollars. So I appreciate everybody looking at this on the rebroadcast, and I hope that you learned something. And my only suggestion and request, and again, as I said, I'm not begging anybody for anything. I have been blessed by the Lord, okay, with a beautiful family. But if you want to show that you appreciate this level of work that I do, because we're going to put in a lot of work, I'm going to put everything you've been watching into context over the next few weeks and over the next months, and hopefully this year. This is how we're going to do. We're going to put everything in context. We're going to give you a historical context so you can understand what's going on right now. Somebody type right now in the chat room. We're going to put it in context for you. And if you so happen to learn something as I'm going through my exegesis of the current state of America, then I should earn something. Let me say that again. If you learn something, I should earn something. I should get a t-shirt saying that, or at least a coffee cup. If you learn, I should earn. And that's the only way you can really show me your personal appreciation. But again, I'm not begging anybody for anything. I appreciate you all. I thank you all. It's a true blessing to be here today. Nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and begin. Shout out to my man, Urban Eagle 3114. He has been here for years. Shout out to all the folks that's been here for years. Now, that being the case, family, look, man, it is a lot going on in the world. Okay? Now, you know, I like to come up with the video footage. And you know, I have some very good video footage. I don't know if YouTube is going to let me play this stuff. But my gosh, have you all seen what's going on in Venezuela? Did you see what happened? I mean, this is what we woke up to. Okay. You know what I'm saying? This is what we doing. What we at? Yeah. Now what these are missiles and bombs and whatnot going off in Caracas, Venezuela. Okay, these are people, I believe it's some sort of plant, and they are running for their lives. They are trying to get away. What about it? Run, amigo. Run. Get out of there. Move it. Get on up out of there, man. Get. And I'm not laughing. But nevertheless, this is how it went down in Venezuela, man. Look at this. And for you all who haven't realized it, this is the United States military. Fair use. The United States military. Jack, look at that's our planes right there, man. That's our planes. Somebody type damn in the chat room. Damn. Right? Look at what's going on. Helicopters like a Vietnam movie or something like that. It's like Desert Storm 1 and 2. Okay? So this all happened a few days ago. You know, it's like, well, what's going on? What the hell happened? Well, it all started because of this fella right here. Hit the number 1 button.
Por mí. Aquí no esperan Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
He turned up. Ain't he turned up? He was turned all the way up, right? And then them boys came. They came in with the planes and the jets and the missiles. Shout out to the United States military. Whatever position you may take on Donald Trump's actions, we must congratulate our military on very decisive, coordinated action. They truly did the thing. You understand me? So shout out to them. Yes, of course.
Señores, bombardeo Miraflores. Son las... ¿Qué hora es? Dime la hora. Dime la hora.
Son las 2:02.
You better put your little head back in you better put your head back in there. Okay, snipers out there. Put your little head back in there. You know.
Eso es de la madrugada.
Okay? You know the leader was talking too much, and he Ramadan is not getting the game. You understand? You can imagine waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning in Caracas, Venezuela, and your country is being invaded by the Estados Unidos America del Norte. Okay? Now, you may be thinking, well, these people must be upset about that. And I have not found that to be true. This is the reaction. After their leader was taken and put on the airplane, him and his wife, okay, him and Boo, were put on an airplane and taken to the United States. And they are at this point somewhere in Brooklyn. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to BK. And a lot of brothers and sisters have a lot to say about this too.
Like that nigga a real deal gangster. Like Jesus. Like that nigga just went to a nigga whole country, bombed that motherfucker, and kidnapped the president and his wife.
You know, I'm trying to apologize for the language. The brother's getting it out. Go ahead.
Oh, bro ain't bullshitting. Bro ain't bullshitting. Oh, bro ain't bullshitting. And y'all nigga thinking y'all can get away and y'all nigga got warrants and shit for getting caught with 3 fines and shit. This nigga just kidnapped the whole president.
He did.
How y'all gonna fuck with that? How we gonna fuck with that?
You can't, brother. You can't. You can't outdo that. Okay, you and the YNs, you can't outdo that. Okay, you're not gonna be able to outdo kidnapping the president of a country. Okay, at his house. Okay, that's not gonna be able to happen. But largely, again, most people have celebrated, and when I say most people, the people that count, okay, the people that count, the Venezuelan people seem to be overjoyed that this dictator is gone, who seized power and wouldn't remove himself even after a free and fair election, allegedly. Okay, these folks they're happy. Shout out to Mr. 4 PPS. Yeah, I mean, you think it's a soccer game going on out there, but you know, of course, you're gonna have people who are upset. But for the most part, it looks like you know, you know, the people are happy. You know, folks are making songs about it, and so I saw this one. I just thought this was entertaining. Hit the #1, but shout out to Mr. 43.
Drop 3 bombs to the end of discussion. Fuck, I ran, I ain't running from nothing. If you see me running, I'm running for president. Missiles on missiles, you know how we coming. Tell all your men we gon' blow up the country. I see you tweeting online, you a sucker. One more threat and I'm pressing that button. They trying to impeach me, they know that I'm thugging. I'm getting locations, I'm dropping the hunt. They sitting that shit, they get stopped in the sky. Said one more thing, everybody gon' die. Since 6 of the minute, they making it hot. I don't need no permission to blow up your spot. I don't need no permission to make you a target. You must not heard what happened to her. They must not heard what happened to Bin Laden. Since met deep in everybody's body. We get it started, nigga, we ain't stop.
You know it. You know it's always gonna be some brothers that's gonna get together and make some songs about something like that, man. But yeah, y'all didn't know Uncle D had the moves. You better watch it. Better watch it. Uncle D got mean moves, man. I'm Mr. Steal Your Gal back in the day. But nevertheless, the official response has also been interesting. We can take a look at some of the things that Marco Rubio.
Other than the following points, Nicolás Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
$50 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolás Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. Nobody
deserves that $50 million but us. Nobody's gonna get it. Trump is about that money. One thing that man is about, he's counting the dollars.
Provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time.
Play games. This was an example of F around and find out. FAFO. This is what we see going on a political level. Okay, F around and find out.
And thinks nothing's going to happen.
You're not here for these
and I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it.
Everybody needs a hype man like this. Look, man, I told y'all 100 times if I told you once. Okay? We not playing these games anymore with you all. Y'all need to stay down. Okay, the boss is back. We doing it big. We not only we taking over the block, we taking over the whole city. You understand? That's the translation right there. We're not, this ain't Biden. We not Obama out here. Okay, we doing it big. We putting the smack down on people. That's the ghetto hood translation of what that.
He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. If he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy. But instead, he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think that the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that
you are going to get that work. Okay, that's what he said. You're going to get that work. It's not a game, sir. We're not playing. Okay? I
guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
You're going to learn today. You learn today. Again, it might sound like, I'm biased one way or the other. I'm just here watching. Okay, I'm minding my black business and I'm watching and I'm observing and I'm like, damn, this dude right here is everything he said he was gonna be. Okay, he has decided it's time, and it's time. Now, there's a lot more politics going on here. Again, let's focus on what the people are saying. And there's more politicians have more to say, but even the
that got deported by Trump are thanking him. Watch this.
Coño, Catire, me deportaste. Pero me acabas de hacer un coro, mano. Me acabas de hacer un coro real.
Basically saying it's okay he deported me because you gave me freedom. Okay?
Está bien que me deportaste, mano, no importa. No importa. Así como ahora no de la calle. Pero me hiciste un coro real, la hiciste real, Catire. ¡Wow! ¡Wow! ¡Ey! Nunca la...
They excited. They couldn't get rid of me. And here's something else. If you really talk to a lot of Latinos who actually live in some of these countries, they're happy that Maduro is gone, because Venezuela or the citizens leaving Venezuela for a safer place to live have flooded their countries. Whether we're talking about Colombia had to tighten their border because they thought it was going to be an influx of Venezuelans. The Dominican Republic The Dominicans will tell you that the Venezuelans have taken over. Okay, Brazil, they're all saying the same thing. So they're happy that Maduro is gone because he made their country largely unlivable. And so in this regard, they start traveling to other people's countries. And it's just only so many immigrants that you can deal with. So let's keep looking at some more video. Let's check this out. Hit the #1 button if you can hear me clearly.
United States and increasingly Europe. As Secretary Rubio stated just yesterday, this is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be used as a base of operation for our nation's adversaries and competitors and rivals of the United States. Right. You can't turn Venezuela into the operating hub for Iran, for Hezbollah, for gangs, for Cuban intelligence agents, and other malign actors that control that country. You cannot continue to have the largest energy reserves in the world under the control of adversaries of the United States, under the control of illegitimate leaders, and not benefiting the people of Venezuela, and stolen by a handful of oligarchs inside of Venezuela. But it doesn't stop there. Numerous UN and international human rights organizations have issued reports documenting.
So, you know, you see a lot of people have a lot to say. It's a lot of politics behind this. I found there's also some other very interesting statements being made. I want you to check this out. This is Lindsey Graham. He's another
just
senator.
wait for Cuba. Cuba is a communist dictatorship that's killed priests and nuns. They've preyed on their own people. Their days are numbered. We're going to wake up one day, I hope in 26, in our backyard, we're going to have allies in these countries doing business with America, not narco-terrorist dictators killing Americans. This is a big frigging day. And everybody in the world is thinking differently than they were just a few days ago because of what you did.
Cuba is ready to fall. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cuba looks like.
So Cuba gets their oil from Venezuela. And so because of that, now, you know, Cuba, which is basically at America's doorstep, only 90 miles off the shore of Florida, has been adversarial to the United States since Castro took over. And so whatever you feel, however you feel, and here's the thing, understand this, there are a lot of people who don't like America because they're haters. Now, that's fair, I guess, but as far as Americans are concerned, you should be focused on what's in the best interest of America because you live in the United States. Now, a lot of the immigrants, and I've talked about this before, many of them have developed a hate for the United States. Many of them don't like patriotic Americans. Many of them don't like any American who's not willing to denigrate or disrespect the United States. We don't do that on this page because we know where we live. And irrespective of where you from, that's not important. It's where you are. It is not where you're from, it's where you at. That was an old New Orleans song, a bounce song. Ain't where you from, is where you're at. And right now, you're in the United States. And what's in the best interest of the United States is typically what's in the best interest of the United States citizens. So we need to be mindful of the fact that, you know, if this is something that can work out well for us, then we need to, even though black folks are minding our business.
The Venezuelan oil industry.
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. Right. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil.
Now, I want you all to type this in the chat room. Somebody type in the chat room, the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine, M-O-N-R-O-E. The Monroe Doctrine, okay? Somebody type the Monroe Doctrine in the chat room. We're going to talk about that.
Oil companies.
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it
Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela since 2014.
8 million Venezuelans have left Venezuela and they've gone to different Latin countries and the Americas. And that's why you have a lot of other Latin countries who are happy that Maduro is gone. Okay, so let's keep that in mind.
Because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump.
Right. So, you know, again, this is what we voted for, right? The vast majority of Americans voted America first. Somebody type America first in the chat room. Whether you support it or not, I do think it's a good idea. Now, for all of these folks who have hated on the United States of America, and you all said, "Oh, Russia and China, or this, that, and the other, they could, do this, that, and the other." I want you to hear what the Chinese have to say about China and how
quite.
Listen to what this gentleman has to say about how China looks in this situation. Listen
be another quite humiliation for China. Chinese made air defense systems in Venezuela neutralized easily. Iranian drones useless. U.S. electronic warfare didn't just win, it erased the battlefield. It was a superb demonstration of American military superiority over China. And every country watching just learned a brutal lesson, which is Chinese weapons look good in brochures and fake propaganda videos, but they collapse under real pressure.
Hoorah.
And let's be honest, Venezuela is not Ukraine. It's right next to the United States. Since the Monroe Doctrine, Washington has been very consistent. No external power gets a foothold in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
China tried to sneak in through loans, oil, and ideology, propping up a dictator. It just got kicked out hard.
Yes, they did.
Maduro thought China, Russia, and Iran had his back. Well, Mr. Maduro, I think you overestimated BRIC propaganda and underestimated American power.
Yeah.
China writes statements.
So, again, you got all these people who have denigrate America. They have bad things to say about the United States. But then they want to come. They want us to come save them. The United States contributes about 60% of the countries around the world. The United States gives them loans and money. We provide protection. The reason our defense budget is so astronomical is because other people don't want to spend to defend themselves. You see, so that's why we have so many bases around the world. We've been defending Europe for 60 years now. This is what we've been doing. Now we'll check out a couple of more videos, and then we're gonna move on to our regularly scheduled discussion. Hit the number one.
A new global doctrine. It basically says we're not the world's police anymore. Jeez, finally. We're the boss of our own hemisphere, and everyone else can deal with theirs. On December 5th, the White House released Trump's new national security strategy. Inside the document is something they're already calling the Trump corollary to the old Monroe Doctrine. Translation, the United States is already declaring dominance over the Western Hemisphere. North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. He's basically saying that this is our neighborhood neighborhood, our rules. At the same time, it signals something huge. America is stepping back from trying to manage every crisis on the planet. Here's the core of it. America first, but not just the slogan, as the actual blueprint. The strategy says that the US is done acting like a global babysitter and instead wants to be a regional superpower at home with select pressure overseas. It talks about sovereignty, borders, migration, cartels, critical minerals, energy, not spreading democracy or building global institutions. And in Europe, the document literally talks about civilization erasure, mass migration, and cultural collapse. It basically tells Europe, you're on your own. In the Americas, this doctrine means cracking down on cartels and narco-terror groups, pushing
all you Europeans that have such negative things to say about America and Americans, now you're on your own. Now you can fight your own wars because the American taxpayer is no longer willing to foot the bill for your protection. So you can sit over there and eat your wine and cheese. Now you're going to have to put your young men and women through boot camp and training. You're going to have to sustain your own borders. And we know what happens if there's nobody there to keep the peace in Europe. Europe has about 10,000 wars that are documented. That's far more than any other group. You see what I'm saying? This is what you folks do. So, you know, now you're on your own. Now you can fight your own battles. Now you can do what it is that America has done for you. And we'll see how well it works for you.
Pushing back hard on China's influence in Latin America and trying to stabilize countries down south so mass migration doesn't end up on US border. In Europe, leaders are freaking out. French and EU leaders are calling it brutal and a declaration of political war because it blows up the old idea that America will always bail out Europe first. And on Russia and China, this doctrine quietly accepts a world of spheres of influence, meaning that it acknowledges that there are only three global powers, the US, Russia, and China. The goal is to avoid a giant global war by not trying to run everything anymore. So here's the question. Is this smart realism where we're admitting that we can't police the entire planet? Or is it dangerous because it gives Russia, China, and Iran more room to operate in their own backyards? Does America get stronger when it focuses on its own hemisphere, or weaker if it stops acting like the glue that holds the old world order together?
Yeah. So this is that pretty much reflects the position of a lot of Americans anyway. You know, we are tired of being, we're tired of footing the bill. We're in debt up to our eyeballs. You know, and we're overstretched. You know, it's like these other countries need us to come in and clean up their messes. So no, we're about done. We're going to listen to a couple more, then we're going to get down.
Monroe Doctrine with everything that's going on in Venezuela. So let's talk about the layer that everybody is forgetting. What this was the Monroe Doctrine, but with the added Roosevelt corollary being exercised on top of it. Now, the Monroe Doctrine says that foreign powers must stay out of the Western Hemisphere. And back in 1904, Teddy Roosevelt took it a bit further and said when instability, foreign interference, or transnational crime invite outside powers into the Americas, the United States will act to remove that influence. And that matters because Venezuela wasn't just unstable, it had become a literal foreign oil laundromat. For over a decade, but especially since 2019, China has used Venezuela to bypass U.S. oil sanctions. China state firms structured shady deals, routed oil through intermediaries. They employed a shadow fleet and were actually blending crude oil at sea. So conservative estimates put the amount that they were using at about 300,000 to 500,000 of barrels per day. At today's prices, that would put that at about 20 to 35 million a day, or 7 to 12 billion a year. Venezuela also owes China roughly 60 billion historically. Much of it is repaid in oil. And that debt is the reason the CCP had leverage, preferential access, and insulation from sanctions enforcement. And that's quite literally commercial blackmail. Sanctions only work if adversaries cannot reroute energy, and Venezuela was an international workaround for not just China, but for Russia, Iran, and Cuba. So let's zoom out.
So family tip, typically I let anybody comment, and I'm cool with that, you know. It doesn't bother me. Don't block anybody. There's no need to block them. But what I did do is I just put in subscribers only. So if you want to say something disparaging, you're going to have to subscribe to the channel first. So that's how that's going to work. So go ahead and make sure you subscribe now, and you can continue with your comments. You can be as mean as you want to Uncle D, because I'm not worried about it. All right, but y'all go ahead and subscribe. We're going to let this gentleman finish.
To Taiwan. A modern Chinese military campaign, especially a run on Taiwan, is going to be fuel intensive. Naval operations, you've got air sorties, you've got missile production, you have logistics sustainment, and all of that require massive uninterrupted oil flow. Right. Now, China is importing about 70% of all of its oil. Much of it is vulnerable to maritime interdiction. And when their shadow supplies dry up, i.e. Venezuela, the ability to sustain a prolonged Taiwan operation falls apart. So I'm not one of these guys that says everything that President Trump does is somehow 5D chess, but this certainly was a chess move. One of these guys that says everything that why this is America first. Not only does it protect our interests in the Americas and move a dictator favorable to a regime by preying on our downfall, but it protects global supply chains. It's preemptive stabilization exactly as envisioned under Teddy Roosevelt's Corley addition to the Monroe Doctrine. So a foreign power exploited disorder in our backyard, and the United States slammed the door. That is quite literally how the doctrine was designed to work.
And I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think any, if you have your enemy, and guys, forgive the noise real quick. I'm going to, I need to make sure that the subscriber only is on. I need to make sure that the subscriber only with me. I need to make sure that the subscriber only. Feel free to continue with your comments, but make sure you subscribe to the channel. So this is where we are now, and I think that pretty much sums up. There's a couple other videos that I could share with you, but there's no need. I think you all get the point. Ladies and gentlemen, check. Look, I want you to understand that what happened in Venezuela in the early hours of January 3rd, 2026. I referred to it as a kidnapping, but it definitely, whatever you think it was, some people say, no, it wasn't, it was an arrest. Well, it certainly was not a routine arrest. I think we all can agree with that. And this also was not what we consider a traditional invasion, i.e. like Iraq, where we invaded the country and we occupied the country. For the most part, we got in and got out, okay? But what we can say, and what we did see, is we saw a precise U.S. military action coordinated by the United States Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, and of course, the Army Rangers played a crucial part in that. So shout out to all of our military branches. And it had been planned for months, and they carried it out in what is tantamount in minutes. You know, they arrested Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, okay? And they put them in prison in the United States. Now, I want to run that back to you. They arrested the president of Venezuela and his wife at their house, okay? How did it happen? Well, it was the United States Department of War working along with the CIA, and they had rehearsed this mission using a replica of Maduro's safe house. They literally built a replica of his house, and they practiced on it. Okay, that's what they did. They moved our military assets and forces into the Caribbean. And so by the time the final order was given, the region had already been a staging area, and it was complete with aircraft carrier. It had more than 10 warships. They had stealth aircraft. They had thousands of U.S. troops who were officially deployed and for what was called counter-narcotic missions. Okay, and of course, the final authorization came at 10:46 Eastern time. Many of you all were in your beds, snuggled up. Shout out to Jay Allison. Okay, and it was approved by Donald Trump directly. It was called Operation absolute resolve. And within hours, the situation on the ground in Caracas changed. It went dark. They turned off all the lights. At about 2 o'clock, there was an explosion reported across the capital. And what we did was we hit key military locations. Okay. They hit an air base, and they hit some major ports. They hit several airports. So this wasn't just a random attack on the civilian population. All right. They were carefully targeted strikes. Now, people did die. Okay. And I'm going to acknowledge that, but that's war. Now, what was going on above Venezuela? And as you saw in the video, we had about 150 aircrafts flying over. And all were launched from about 20 different bases across the region. Okay. F-35, F-22, B-1 bombers. They even had electronic warfare aircraft, drones. They had refueling planes in the air. They can literally refuel other airplanes in the air. They had cyberspace operations. I think Space Force was involved in this thing. You see? And most of our planes were undetected. And what it did was it cut Caracas off. They were confused. They were isolated. They were done. You see? So, and so, you know, of course, we have our elite U.S. forces, including Delta Force, and they were supported by the 75th Ranger Regiment, okay, and flown by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, okay? You see? Even federal law enforcement, even the DEA was involved. This man knew it was coming. He was hiding out at his fortified safe house, and they had to blow the doors off the safe house to get him and his wife. Okay, this wasn't even a public building. This was a palace. And they had followed him and watched him so long, they knew exactly what he was going to do. All right, so him and his wife, when they got him, they got her, they literally dragged him out of his bed, wrapped him up, and put him on a helicopter and got him up out of there. You see? Yeah. So they started at 2 o'clock, and by 3:20 a.m., they were already gone. They were out of Venezuelan airspace. You see? So, you know, this is what our military did. And now, here's the thing. We woke up Saturday morning, many of us, and saw that they had the president of Venezuela at Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. And he was about to stand court in the Southern District of New York. You see, again, like I said, there were hundreds of deaths. Some say dozens, some say hundreds. Here's the irony. Many of the people who were guarding Maduro were not Venezuelans. They were actually Cuban security forces and some civilians, you see? But as far as the United States, our forces, we suffered some injuries, but there were no reported fatalities, okay? And so in this regard, you know, this is good. This was a win. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and sugarcoat this. This is not This was not diplomacy. This was not an extradition in the traditional sense. It was fast. It was coordinated military, law enforcement operation. It was designed to end to the end. It wasn't about occupation. Okay, it was about getting an arraignment in an American courtroom. And whatever anyone thinks about politics, one truth stands out. This is one of the most decisive and successful demonstrations of the United States military capability in the Western Hemisphere in decades. Now, what did this do? Okay, let's stop pretending here. All right. You know, and this was all these people who have all these things to say about the United States and how we on the decline and all that. Okay. This operation didn't just show how far the United States can reach. It embarrassed China and Russia on a global stage. Venezuela is their homie. Somebody type homeboy in the chat room. Your homeboy got gaffled. Your homeboy whole team got ran through. You see, I'm talking to China and Russia. See, for years, both of those countries have been selling themselves as the military equals of the United States. They're flooding places like Venezuela with their so-called world-class defense systems. And, you know, as my man said, with the glossy brochures and big promises and big talk. And the moment that real American pressure, that real American pressure got applied, right? As they used to say back, the minute they got pressed, they folded up like a house of cards. Venezuela built its defenses entirely around Russian air defense systems and Chinese radar and electronics. On paper, it looked intimidating. You're like, oh, wow. In reality, those systems got bullied, okay? The United States military rolled in using electronic warfare and basically told Venezuela's radar network, sit down. And according to the reporting, the Russian systems that they had and the Chinese-made radar, they were all jammed. They were blinded. They were confused. This is Russia and China's top-notch equipment that they're implementing right now in their countries. And America just caved all of that in. You see? And then once we did that, our U.S. aircraft and helicopters moved right on in, and they own the skies. That's what we did. Okay? This was not sloppy. It was not random. All right? We went straight for the throat. We destroyed their missile batteries. We did them in. You see? %60 of Venezuela's Chinese radar systems weren't even operational. No parts, no support, no upkeep. So all that fancy Chinese technology that you all say is equal to the United States, it all failed. It's just a great sales pitch. It didn't survive. And see, that's not dominance. That's bad customer service. Can you imagine Venezuela? Look, our radar's down. Can you send someone over? Hold on a minute. Did you just put you on hold? Well, we're under attack right now, China. We're looking for the manual. We don't see your website. It's not very helpful. Can we talk to a live person in China? Just hold on for a minute while you getting invaded. That's basically what happened. You see? And the cold part about it, Maduro knew ahead of time. They even had a report in the Washington Post that he was calling Russia, begging for some upgrade. I need some help. I need help. I need some more missiles and radar. And Russia's like, we can't do it. We fighting Ukraine. You see? It's painfully obvious that these people cannot compete with us. And a country that can't defend itself is no challenge to the United States or the United States military. You see? So again, let's point out what this is. And this is for the haters. I know we got a lot of American haters. Look, I'm a Black American. I can trace my roots back hundreds of years in this country. And I have every right to complain about America because of the things historically the Black Americans have had to endure in this country. But when push comes to shove, when it gets down to it, I know where I live. I know where I sleep. I know where my family lives. So I am 100% America first. Now, you may not like my politics. I may not like another American's politics. But when it comes down to it, we have to support America because this is our land. This is our territory. And you would be stupid not to. Now, again, for you haters out there, if you don't like it, you can leave. If you don't like it, you can complain. You can write articles. You can write whatever you want to do. And that's what makes America great. You have a right to complain. But don't you ever fix your filthy mouths to try to equate what China or Russia is doing to what America has already achieved. They do not hold water. All that you all have been talking is propaganda. Here, let me hit you with something else. Let's be honest about what all this really means. For all you online haters who spent years hyping up all these other countries like they're ready to go toe-to-toe with the United States, where you gonna move? Remember, everybody's talking about they moving to Canada. Nobody moved. Here's a reality check. All you big tough guys, you got exposed. The idea that either one of these countries, where we talking about Venezuela, I remember they were passing out weapons to the Venezuelan people like they were gonna do something. All of that photo. You see those ladies sticking out? They just sticking out their balcony. Oh Lord, and nobody coming. Nobody wants none of it. They don't want none of these Army Rangers. Do you think they want to see these Army Rangers? No, they went in their house. Okay? So if you've been rooting for America's downfall, you're free to hope, but it isn't a strategy. You understand? Now, again, that collapse may come one day soon, but it ain't coming anytime soon. And it's certainly not at the hands of some of these states that can't even protect their own president. And here's the part that many people won't admit. This is what I voted for. This is what the majority of the Americans, but I don't care what anyone said. This is what we voted for. And when I say this is what we voted for, I'm saying winning. Somebody type winning in the chat room. Isn't that Donald Trump once said, you're going to get tired of winning. And this is what he meant. Whatever you think about the United States, whatever you think about Donald Trump and his politics, it's a culture. It's arguments, whatever. Americans love success. Americans love winning on a global stage. We like clear, decisive victories. We like decisive outcomes. The last time our country felt a clean, undeniable military win was Gulf War I under George Herbert Walker Bush. And people remember how that felt. You see? It happened fast. It was effective. See, before that, we had got mired down in Vietnam, and that felt bad. Prior to that, we were dealing with Korea, and that was just like a fight we stalled. And then the last time before that was World War II. We had a decisive win. We like winning. It makes us feel good. We like going out, whooping up on other people's behinds. And we're not going to apologize for it. We like that. And here's another thing for you. Well, that's not fair what happened. Nicolás Maduro was not simply an unpopular president. He was the central authority behind one of the most violent and repressive governments in modern Latin American history. And the Latin American people will tell you they have had some rough dictators. You understand me? They have had it hard. And if he was at the top of that, that's why they're happy he's gone. His rule didn't merely fail economically. It relied on fear, force, and brutality to maintain power, long after the people were tired of him. Let me give you one of the most infamous things this man did in 2017. He put in a nationwide crackdown on people who were protesting, people who were hungry, people who didn't have enough food. The average Venezuelan has lost anywhere between 15 to 20 pounds after he was elected because they were slowly starving to death. And these are not big people. We're not talking about 300-pound people. We talk about people who are normal weight, like 125, but not like Uncle D, not husky like me. No, not like me. I mean normal people who are less than 120, 150 pounds, and they lose 17 pounds because they were starving. And what was his response when millions of Venezuelans poured into the streets demanding accountability for their country being dragged into the ground. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to reform. It was violence. President Maduro gave an order to his equivalent, to his National Guard and his police force, to go out and put down the protests, not with water hoses, not with rubber bullets, with live ammunition and tear gas fired directly at the people. They carried out mass shootings, mass killings, mass beatings, and they did this throughout the whole country. And most of it was young people. It was young. They were shooting young students in the chest and the head at close range. Some of them, they even they used armored cars to run over these kids. At least 125 people, most of them students, were killed under this man's regime. And then you had hundreds, maybe thousands more detained. You had people who were tortured. Many just disappeared. You had videos of people who had been detained. Venezuelan city, they were stripped naked. They were beaten with metal rods. They were electrocuted. They were suffocated with bags over their head. And this wasn't isolated, man. They were carried out by the state under Maduro's authority. So do you feel sorry for him? And this was routine. These folk had underground cells. They were denied food. They were denied medical care. They were subject to psychological torture. These was citizens, all because they wanted a better life. They wanted accountability. Why is our country so bad? You see? And when your mother complained about what happened, they threatened her and said, you need to be quiet or we're going to kill you too. This is what this person is. This is who this person is in Brooklyn on trial. Him and his raggedy ass wife. So many of the Venezuelans have a right to feel the way they do because the suffering was real and the anger was justified. Now, I said that. And I know we got some liberals up in here and I'm like, it's still not fair. It's the law. I get it. Let's deal with that. Okay? Even when you have this brutal, corrupt, criminal dictator, international law still treats territorial sovereignty as a serious principle. We need to do that. Okay? He was a crap. The man was a pile of crap. However, he was a sovereign of his country. And a foreign military entering into another nation, seizing the king or the head of state or the president or prime minister and removing him by force, it does raise legal and ethical and moral issues and questions, even when that leader is widely condemned. Okay? But two truths can exist at the same time. President Nicolás Maduro, or former President Nicolás Maduro, he deserved accountability. And the method of his removal raises serious concerns about the precedent and legality of what's being said. Again, acknowledging his crimes does not require ignoring those questions. And questioning the method does not mean defending the man. And this is why I want to speak to you black folks. Listen to me. Listen to me. I want you to hear me, black people. You are beautiful people. You're big-hearted people. You're empathetic. You're thoughtful. I love my black American brothers and sisters. And our reaction to this, seeing somebody snatched from their home, even though he was a horrible person, okay? We're sensitive to power, humiliation, and imposed authority because we have lived through generations of it. Black Americans know what it feels like when violence is justified after the fact when force is excused as necessary, and when entire communities are punished based on lies, fear, and envy. We can talk about Rosewood, Florida in 1923, when a white woman falsely claimed that she was assaulted by a black man without any evidence. A bunch of white men showed up on this little black town in Rosewood. They burned the towns, they killed family members and men, women, and children. They unalived people, they raped women, and they forced them all into the swamp. What was the justification? Protecting white womanhood and law and order. The reality was that prosperous community was erased because it challenged the racial hierarchy of that part of the country. Same thing happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, commonly known as Black Wall Street. The people of Greenwood, wealthiest black communities in America. Its residents owned businesses and banks and newspapers. And you know, what was the excuse they used? Some unproven accusation against a black teenager who nobody could find. He did something. I think he whistled at a white woman or looked at a white woman or something like that, or spoke to a white woman. And all these angry white men came to the town. Hundreds were killed. Thousands of black people were left home. What was the justification? Maintaining order. But the real reason was hate, resentment towards black success. Same thing happened in Houston, Texas, 1917. You had black soldiers in the U.S. Army, men trained to defend the country, patriots, being harassed and beaten and shot at by white police officers, civilians in Houston, Texas. And when some of the soldiers defended themselves, because that's what fighting men do, the incident was labeled a Houston riot. 19 black soldiers were executed, hung, shot. Many of them were rushed through trial without even having defense. The real crime was not a rebellion. It was that black men had dared to stand up for themselves and refused to sit down and be quiet. Even when we talk about Georgia and the Deep South, black landowners targeted, successful after slavery ended. We had bought land. We were being farmed. We were farmers. We were business owners. That made white folk angry. So a lot of black farmers, a lot of the black farmers who resisted having their land stolen, just outright stolen from them when segregation was at its height and Jim Crow was at its height, they were driven off their land. What was the justification? They were accused of some false crime. Okay? It was about keeping the peace. You see? So we are very empathetic people. Black American folks understand. And initially we don't like, just like some of us, we see what's going on with ICE and them rolling up in Minnesota, and apparently some young person a woman got unalived today by ICE. We're empathetic people. You see? So when black Americans hear the word justified force, we instinctively ask the question, according to whom? You see? And it's still ongoing. We can look at some of the targeted killings of many of our black leaders, where we're talking about Medgar Evers. He was assassinated in 1963. All he did was organize black people to vote, and that challenged the segregation in Mississippi. The man was killed in his driveway in front of his family. And his murderer walked free for decades. Dr. King. Some people think he was killed because he had a dream. No, he was killed because he was starting to get into opposition to Vietnam, and he was looking for economic justice for all Americans, white, black, whatever. He was beginning to address systematic equality. They equated that to being in danger. He was unalive. Brother Malcolm X was killed after after breaking from institutions that sought to control him, and after being beginning to build more international alliances. He reframed black oppression as a human rights issue, not just an American one. That made him dangerous. And see, again, this feeds skepticism, that black people have when we see the use of authority. So we ask the question about who, even our black entertainers, and whether you like them or not, whether we talking about Bill Cosby or Michael Jackson or James Brown or Chris Brown, or even recently Sean Combs or O.J. Simpson, many black Americans notice a recurring pattern. Aggressive scrutiny, public destruction, media trials that feel disproportionate. At the end of the day, if you want to just talk about P. Diddy, what was his crime? Why is he in jail for all these years? For flying a prostitute from one state to the next? Bring him, are you serious? So he's in jail for what, half a decade? Again, I'm not saying that every accusation is false. But what this does mean is that history has taught us as black Americans to question why allegations are handled the way they are and how narratives are constructed and who benefits when powerful black figures fall. Again, all I'm doing is pointing out why my big-hearted, beautiful, lovely black American family would be empathetic even to a scumbag like Nicolás Maduro, who was a brutal ruler, right? We can, and unalive his own people, we can still recognize why humiliation by force feels dangerous. We can support accountability and ask whether power was exercised in a way that respects human dignity and international law. We can still do that. You see? See, our empathy doesn't make us weak. It makes us historically literate. And our skepticism does not make us disloyal. It makes us experienced. Now, holding space for justice and caution is not a contradiction. It is wisdom earned through survival. Now, that being the case, I want you black folks to listen to me before you get all sympathetic about, how humiliating this was to the people of Venezuela. I want you to listen to me. Shout out to GCLA. Appreciate it. Listen, I want you to hear me on something now. You learn something, I want you to earn something. I should earn something, but I'm not begging nobody, but I want you to hear me on something real quick. Before you black people start hooping and hollering, before you decide it's time to wake up out of your rest and get off the couch, before you rush to feel sorry for Venezuela or the humiliation on the world stage, we need to be honest about how black people are treated inside Venezuela itself. Because see, as I always do, I come with the facts. In 2013, there was an academic study published in a Swedish journal. You can look it up. And it examined racial attitudes across the Americas. Okay? And it concluded that Venezuela was the most racist country in the Western Hemisphere. That means out of every country from Canada to America to Mexico, all of them. Even it says Venezuela is more racist than the United States of America. That's what the Swedish study determined. Look it up. What does it say when Venezuela is more racist than the United States of America and we had 100 years of Jim Crow and fought a civil war that folks is trying to keep slavery? This is not a rumor. It's not social media talk. Venezuela is more racist than Argentina, where all the Nazis went after World War II. It's based on a survey measuring racial attitudes and social distance and acceptance of black people as equals. This is not about perceived racism, family. This is about how race actually works in Venezuela. In Venezuela, those light-skinned Latinos, those are white people. Just like in the United States, they see themselves as white. They call themselves Blanco. And they treat the black Venezuelans as though they are black. They're not considered equals. They're not treated as, they're treated as lower class. Shout out to Lord Gigatron. White Venezuelans, they dominate. They got the highest paying jobs. They got the best corporate position. They sitting in the C-suites. When you look at Venezuelan television, white. Advertising, white. Media, white. Politics, white. All the government leadership but a few, white. Upper middle class, rich neighborhoods, white. And when you look for the black Venezuelans, they live in the ghettos. They live in the poor neighborhoods. They get paid under the table. They don't have any benefits. They get the lowest paying jobs. They're the maids. They're the domestic workers. They're the nannies. They're the housekeepers. You understand, man? They're the ones who do the street vending. And much like all across the world, over-policed in their communities. I mean, this is epidemic. Black Venezuelans are routinely denied jobs and passed over for promotions and excluded socially just because they're black, because of the texture of their skin, of their hair, their skin color, their facial features. The employers tell them they openly prefer lighter skin or white applicants. And they basically say that black Venezuelans don't fit the image. Or they're seen as less educated or more criminal or less respectable. This is not subtle. This is daily life. It's so baked into the culture of Venezuela, they don't even notice it. And the white Venezuelans control the media. Turn on some of these Venezuelan television, get your satellite pointed down there if it's still working. They got white faces everywhere. News anchors, actors, beauty queens, advertisement. The only time they show black people in Venezuela are the criminals or the servants or the comic relief. Sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? Huh? Sounds like us. It wasn't until 2011 that the Afro-Venezuelans or the black Venezuelans were even officially counted in the national census. And what did it show? It showed something that the black Venezuelans already knew, that they were overwhelmingly poor, that they were marginalized, and they were socially excluded. You even had the same United Nations repeatedly called out Venezuela for its structural anti-black racism. They are literally still dealing with Jim Crow down there. It's not about because black people down there in Venezuela felt discriminated against, but because discrimination shows up in income, housing, education, health, policing, and political power. This is what they're dealing with. And these people have contributed. You don't even probably, some of y'all don't even know they had black Venezuelans. You see? Imagine knowing that your people helped build a country, its culture, its economy, its traditions, but you're being treated as if you don't fully belong. Imagine watching the music your ancestors created, the dances they preserved, and the food they grew become known as Venezuelan culture, which is identified as white culture, while your name and your people are erased from the story. And that's the reality of the black Venezuelans. That's how they've lived for centuries. They have a dance called the tambor. Okay? It's one of the clearest examples. It's a powerful drum-based music and dance tradition is rooted in its African heritage, especially from the Congo region. And it uses the Kamako drum, or Kamako drum, C-U-M-A-C-O. And it hand-played rhythms, and they're passed down through generations of enslaved Africans and descendants. And it's not just entertainment, it's a spiritual and communal thing, and it's deeply tied to the black identity. Yet today, it's simply presented as Venezuelan folklore without naming it. It was black people who created that. You see? Whether we're talking about food or their spiritual identity or their traditions, they just incorporated that and they've erased these people. You see? So before you start feeling sorry for these Venezuelans and their leaders and how they were treated unfairly, you need to take that into account. See, black Venezuelan culture is celebrated, but black Venezuelans aren't. Their music is played at national festivals, their dances are taught in schools, their rhythms are performed on international stages, but the black communities who created those traditions are rarely given any credit. They don't get any economic benefit, and they don't get any respect. And we black Americans, we know this well, don't we? See, our music became American music, didn't it? Our food became Southern. Our pain became their goddamn entertainment. Our contributions became history without our names on it. Whether we talking about blues, which became rock and country, to soul, shaping pop and R&B and black culture, it's just absorbed into the mainstream while black people are pushed aside. And in Venezuela, the result is the same. Black culture sits at the center of national identity while black people are kept on the edges of society. And this is why black Venezuelans are angry. This is why they're hurt. And this is why their story deserves to be told. So yes, many Venezuelans feel humiliated today. And yes, many are celebrating the fall of their brutal government. Both things can be true at the same time, but as black people, and I'm talking about my black American brothers and sisters, my foundational black American brothers and sisters, we need to be honest with ourselves. This humiliation did not happen in a vacuum. This is the same country where white Venezuelans treated black Venezuelans as inferior for generations. And see, let me tell you what's really going on. These Venezuelans made a deal with racism long before the United States ever arrived on the scene. It chose to build a society where black people were useful but invisible, where black culture was celebrated but black lives were devalued, where whiteness meant power and blackness meant limitation. And it wasn't an accident, it was a choice. And now, after centuries of practicing anti-black racism and anti-indigenous racism too, but that ain't my business. But now Venezuela finds itself being bullied and humiliated by a power, the United States government and the United States military, that does not respect it, that does not fear it, and that does not treat it as an equal. A power that stepped in and made it clear, you do not control your own borders. You can't even protect your own leaders. You don't even control your own fate. That's hierarchy. You see? And here's an uncomfortable truth. Racism always eats its own. Societies that dehumanize black people or indigenous people or people of color eventually learn what dehumanization feels like when a stronger power decides that they are disposable also. So our black people, we as black Americans, we supposed to be obligated to go out and protest and mourn, this humiliation? Are we expected to rush to the sympathy for a society that never extended dignity to its own black population? How would we be treated if we were down there and we spoke Spanish and we happen to be born in South America instead of North America? Probably the same. So we supposed to forget centuries of anti-black racism because of this embarrassment and these people had their borders invaded? Hell no. Look, understanding humiliation doesn't mean excusing hypocrisy. Okay? Just because we're empathetic does not mean we are required to betray ourselves. We know this story. We know what it feels like. Shout out to Timothy Bright. See, again, Venezuela as a whole has been practicing anti-black racism and it found itself humbled by a greater power that does not recognize its humanity. Much the same as it didn't recognize the humanity of the black people that live within its borders. Look, fam. Listen here. We are resting. You see? We are resting. And no matter what these Democrats and liberals want us to do, we're not getting off the bench. Because as far as I'm concerned, what I see right now, shout out to Yaya's kids. At this moment, what many of us black folks see, and I'm talking to you now, you've heard what I had to say. I'm not finished. I got plenty more. What I see right now is karma. Or as Brother Malcolm said, I see the chickens coming home to roost. We see a society that practices racial hierarchy now experiencing what it feels like to be treated as expendable by a greater power, as to be treated as simply a resource. We see a country, shout out to Brawlick Sean, we see a country that made a deal with the devil, and now the devil has come to collect. It's not mean we celebrating their suffering. It doesn't mean, we happy that we just went down there and jacked these people's oil and we about to take all they had. We broke their ties up, and Venezuelans might not get a dime from this oil that we're going to get. We're not celebrating that. We recognize the patterns, but you need to understand these folk made a deal with white supremacy, racism, and it's never loyal. You see? It doesn't just stop with black people. It always comes back for those who thought they were protected by proximity to whiteness. Black Americans know this truth better than anyone alive. So we're not sorry. We're not feeling sorry for you that y'all about to get robbed and jacked and rolled up. We're not obligated to share your tears because you're about to get your oil took. You traded one local master for a foreign master. See, don't confuse our understanding for forgiveness. We reserve our sympathy for those who truly deserve it. That would, in this case, be the black Venezuelans who are oppressed. The good thing for them is they already know how to deal with this. See, what we're witnessing now is not a mystery, it's history doing what it does. Now, I do want to deal with how this thing happened because I think that's important. We want to talk about the authority used, okay? But what I'm going to do is some of you all have asked me to throw a little, something I used to do back in the day. I would put little videos up and take a little break and let y'all chill and go to the bathroom because folks don't want to miss nothing. Shout out to all my truck drivers out on the road. I know my truck drivers need to check stuff. So what I'm going to do right quick is take a little quick break. Okay, I'm gonna take a little quick break. I'm gonna let you all take a little quick break and check this out. I'm gonna be back shortly. Okay, I'll be right back shortly. Y'all make sure you hang in there. All right, we're gonna let this, I'm gonna find if I can find a little video or something that might you might enjoy. Okay. Y'all hit the number 1 button. If you like the video, hit the number 1 button. I'll be right back. What's up? Welcome to the broadcast. This is Uncle D. People wash their ass in the tub, Kamala Harris.
You would tune in to Uncle D. D's black man talk. Pull up, homie, take a seat. Don't be a shadow watcher every day. You learn something and you earn something. And let them know and drop some money in the plate. It's getting cold, ladies, talking ratchet. There's a king here, grab your coat, zip your jacket. Keep quiet for a second, close your jaw. Turn it Spurling, this ain't Furling, know the law. Talking Constitution, pushing pins when he shootin', give him that. Masculinity, just for the record, sprinkle that. You can keep your cat, gotta cut it. Only cat he rubbing, gotta love it. I call it Molly Buddy. Gotta vote your interest, voting earns. Presidential, this is for the money that I earn. When you gon' learn, my people, that evil mixed with evil. No matter what you're doing, baby, this ain't equal. Sometimes when you're special, you get hated. The test is for the best, you're damn right, my people made it. Uncle D, Blizzard King, you've been served, gotta notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you've been served, get your notice now. Black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice now. Black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice now. Black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now.
Hey man, I do what I do.
Somebody need to whip your ass.
Get up and whip him, Sweets.
Hey, don't be putting the money in my hand all rough.
Take your ass out here. You buy you a Floby and cut your own damn hair from now on.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Shout out to everybody who's learned something and has contributed to the chat. Man, I appreciate everybody. I got the Cash App running across the bottom of the screen, and I have my super chats up here. Now, I'm not finished. I got work to do. I'm still working. But again, I do this because I want to put things in historical context. And hopefully, now that I've, helped you dispel all the reasons why you shouldn't be emotionally attached to this situation as Black Americans, because again, I cater to a Black American audience. That's my people. This is what I do. I attended a historically Black university, several of them. I come from a Black community. So I have an obligation to cater to my brothers and sisters of the Black persuasion here in the United States. Now, again, everybody can pick up on what I'm saying. But the thing is, I have to always keep it 100 with myself, man. Hit the number 1 button if you can hear me clearly. And if you've learned something, hit the number 1 button also. Now, again, this was, I call this a kidnapping. And for you guys who saw the broadcast title, it says President of Venezuela kidnapped the America that Black people warn you about, okay? Because Black people know plenty about the United States government overstepping its bounds. Now, to understand how our country and our government has justified what it did to President Nicolás Maduro, you have to understand the domestic frame and the U.S. government used from the start. Somebody typed the Monroe Doctrine in the chat room. Somebody typed the Monroe Doctrine in the chat room. Monroe Doctrine. This was billed as a law enforcement arrest operation, and it was backed by the U.S. military, not vice versa. Okay? All right, this wasn't a conventional invasion. We weren't trying to occupy. For all you people who said they bombed and occupied Venezuela, that is incorrect. We're not occupying it. Okay? Okay, as far as we're concerned, Maduro was not treated as a legitimate head of the state because he was declared not one. He was an indicted fugitive, wanted in a federal courtroom. Okay, the Department of Justice announced major charges against Maduro and other Venezuelans way back in March of 2020, including narco-terrorism and drug trafficking related conspiracies. In other words, the U.S. positioned him as a defendant in a criminal case, not as a protected political equal. Now, here's an important point, okay, that you need to understand. Joe Biden put a $25 million reward out on him. Okay? You understand? Look, it started at 15 million. Joe Biden increases to 25 million. You understand? They're going to give 25 million for this man. Then later, it was doubled to 50 million in August of 2025 under Trump. 50 million. It went from 15 to 25 to 50 million. They wanted this man. It's still up. You can look at it. You can look at the State Department website. They $50 million for this man. And see, that reward program piece is crucial because it reinforces the U.S. message was that Maduro was a wanted man, and he has been wanted for a long time. He's not merely some foreign leader that Washington disagreed with. This man's a drug dealer. He facilitated it. And it's been like that for a long time. This is basically being treated as a law enforcement function where the military supported the Department of Justice. You see, that's why you have those videos of Maduro walking through the DEA office in New York, not Leavenworth. He's not a prisoner of war. He's a prisoner because he committed a crime, allegedly, being escorted by federal agents, i.e. DEA, taking that perp walk. Somebody type perp walk in the chat room. You see? And it's legal. I'm going to give you a citation. I know nobody else is. Title 10, United States Code, subsection 284. It authorizes the Department of War, also formerly known as the Department of Defense, to provide support for counter-drug activities and activities counter to transnational organized crime, including support requested by other federal agencies, even foreign law enforcement in certain circumstances. You all remember a movie that came out several years back called Sicario? I implore you to check out this movie. It's called Sicario. And man, Sicario, check out Sicario. Somebody, have you guys seen the movie Sicario? Well, there was an FBI agent and there was some military guys, contractors, mixed in with some military guys, and they wanted the FBI agents to come along with her while they went over into Mexico to conduct some business. Okay, Sicario is one of the best movies. You should check it out, man. It's with that guy Benicito. I forget the guy's name. Benicito, really good actor. The movie was brutal. It was level 10 brutal. You got to check it out. But they brought her with them because they could then say, well, no, we were just acting pursuant to federal law, which allows us to aid and support the American legal authorities. You see what I'm saying? And we provided support to them. So it became a law enforcement. That's why they had her to come along. Okay? So that was the justification. It was constructed like a legal pathway. First, they indicted Maduro as a narco terrorist. Okay, then they put a huge reward, 25 million under Biden, increased it under Trump to 50 million. And then they proceeded to execute that criminal warrant. You see? Now, whether the world calls it an invasion or not, the United States built this justification around domestic law enforcement. They had a wanted defendant, they had valid charges, and there was a reward program. And the DOJ, the Department of Justice, requested it. Yeah, and you have federal agents involved. You have military support authorized under Title 10 support authorities. Okay? Now, again, I've been telling you guys I'm going to talk to you about the Monroe Doctrine, and to understand the strategic justification that our country some of the things we do, and let me say this: the Monroe Doctrine is about 200 years old, okay, and it's a foreign policy idea. It was first laid out way back in December 2nd, 1823, by the president at the time, James Monroe. And he spoke to the U.S. Congress about it. And at the time, you got to understand where the world was. It had just got through dealing with the Napoleonic Wars in Europe, and most of the Spanish colonies in Central and South America had declared their independence from European rule. And for you guys who don't understand what the Napoleonic Wars, I'm referring to the series of the massive wars and conflicts in Europe that began in the 1790s and went all the way to the 1850, where Napoleon Bonaparte, the famous French general from France, he fought nearly every major European power. This is what Napoleon, he was trying to bring the glory back to France. He fought everybody. He fought countries that don't even exist anymore, okay? And when the wars ended, all these old empires like Spain and France, they were weak and they were looking to reclaim their lost wealth and territory. And the U.S. said, no, y'all not coming back over here. They just got y'all out. You're not coming back over here to retake these Latin American countries and colonies. And so, you know, but the European nations like Spain and Russia and France, they were like, we still powerful enough. We can take we want, same thing Russia is saying as far as Ukraine, we want our bitch back. Spain was like, we need the Dominican Republic back. You know, we need Venezuela back. You see? And the United States said, nah, player, it's not gonna happen. And so President Monroe said, you know, at that point, he said, this is a global ship. You're not coming back over here. And so he put this message together that everybody could hear. He called it the Monroe Doctrine. It was a hint. All right. And largely it was driven by John Quincy Adams, one of the founders of the United States. He said he declared that the Western Hemisphere is off limits to Europe. Don't come back over here. It will be considered political interference. He said the United States, we're not going to interfere with your European wars. We're not getting involved in that. But any attempt of you European powers, anybody over, if you want to come over here and you want to try to control or influence any of these independent nations in the Americas, it's going to be seen as a hostile act. It's going to be seen as against U.S. interests. In other words, you don't come over here, and we're not going to come over there. And at that core is what is known as the Monroe Doctrine. And it was designed to keep these people from trying to come back over here and reclaim their former territories or have influence in this sphere of influence here in the Western Hemisphere. Now, again, you need to understand something. The Monroe Doctrine, it was not law. It wasn't passed by Congress. It's not a treaty between nations. It is simply something what's understood don't need to be said. It is how we operate. It is our foreign policy. It's a statement of principle. Okay? In legal terms, it has no force of its own. It doesn't. But by itself, it authorizes the United States to go to war or intervene militarily in other countries in the Western Hemisphere. It doesn't override international law. It doesn't automatically give the U.S. a blank check to do whatever we want in the Western Hemisphere. It's a doctrine. It's a strategic policy position. It's not a law. It's not binding international. It's just because I say so. I'm the president of the United States, and this is America, and I say so. You see? And what made it significant was that it announced the American interests and intentions, and it defined the Western Hemisphere as ours. Okay? It explained to the rest of the world that the United States has a special role of influence over here. And over time, the U.S. grew in power, and especially by the late 19th and 20th century. And that principle became a foundation for how the United States engage with our neighbors. You see, we don't want enemies at our back door. You see? So what you need to understand, and folks, I know this is some complicated stuff, but you all can get it. I know you can. I know you can handle it. Hit the number 1 button if you're with me and you understand where I'm coming from. Okay? See, the Monroe Doctrine is not a trigger that automatically authorizes military action, but it is a justification that signals how the United States views threats to our strategic interest in the Western Hemisphere. And historically, it's been evoked when American leaders felt that outside powers like Europe and some of these other empires, and in the case we're dealing with right now, China and Russia and Iran, okay, we feel like they're interfering, okay, or they had a potential to interfere in the internal affairs of countries in the America. It's the reason that we can move forward. And it became, for many presidents, the cornerstone of their foreign policy reasoning in the Western region or the Western Hemisphere. Now, again, it's crucial that you understand that the Monroe Doctrine authority comes from its political and strategic role, not from any statute or international agreement. It's a doctrine. It's a foreign policy stance. And it gives the president clear rationale for why they believe, or why we believe that we have a special interest in what happens in America. It's about keeping foreign countries from the Eastern Hemisphere, whether they be Europe or Asia or whoever, out of the New World. You see? Stay over there. We won't come over there. Okay? Now, what did Trump do? See, Trump didn't leave the Monroe Doctrine behind when he returned to his presidency. He revived it, and he did it deliberately. It's part of his strategy in the Western Hemisphere. Okay? In fact, in 2018, he told the United Nations that the Monroe Doctrine is the formal policy of our country, and it will continue to be that. So whether we're talking about China, Russia, Iran, or otherwise, Washington considers any of their action over here hostile. Okay? Now, unlike past presidents, Trump tied the Monroe Doctrine to whether a government was considered lawful or criminal is irrelevant. In his view, governments that we label as narco states, corrupt enterprises, or illegitimate regimes, we see them as having forfeited normal sovereignty and protections. Venezuela under Nicolás Maduro was explicitly treated by Trump in this manner. He repeatedly characterized that government as a threat to regional stability in the U.S. And Trump's strategy, shout out to Lord Gigatron, his strategy also rewrote how action would unfold. Rather than rely solely on diplomacy and sanctions, and his approach made it clear that economic pressure, asset freezes, criminal indictments, and support for basically regime replacement, new leadership, those are all tools that he was going to use. Everything is on the table. And now you see what he's done. He's extended it to extra regional power and even in the form of forced extradition. Okay? Now, the question we have to ask is, why did he do it? And this is when it gets down to the nitty-gritty. We see the justification, and you all may not agree. We might think it's flimsy or whatever, but here's the justification. I laid it out. It falls under the general banner of the Monroe Doctrine. Now, the question you should be asking yourself is, why did he do it? How many of you all think he did it because of the oil? Everybody who thinks he did it because of the oil, let me know. What was it, oil? How many of you all think he did it just because China is our enemies? Huh? How many of you all have heard of the term petrodollar? Somebody type petrodollar in the chat room. Was it oil? Was it because they were our enemies? Huh? Why'd he do it? What's the real motivation? Huh? I'm talking to you all. I want you to learn something. You're going to learn today. You're going to learn something today. All right? How many of you all think it was because of oil? Because, see, I got a different theory, and I've yet to hear anybody talk about it on these internet streets. And this is why I decided, let me go ahead and get this out here while it's relevant. Well, let me explain some things real quick. Why he did it. But why did we invade him? Because there's plenty of bad people out here. Why did we invade? It's oil in other places. See, it's a multitude of reasons, but there's one reason I've yet to see people talk about, and I'll save that one for last. Oil, obviously, oil and power is in America's interest, right? I mean, that's the most obvious. Venezuela is sitting on a ridiculous amount of oil. That's not rumor. It's not hype. They have proven reserves. And the most credible estimates say that they have 303 billion barrels of oil in the ground, not gallons, barrels. And that makes Venezuela the country the largest proven oil reserve on earth. And when people say Venezuela, they have 17% of the world's oil. That's 17 to 18% of the world's proven oil reserve. We know it's there. This is a cash cow. You see? They were producing 3 million barrels of oil a day, and now they're down to 1 million barrels of oil a day because of corruption and mismanagement and sanctions and all that. But the oil is still there. And that oil is future power. Now let's talk about money, because that's what this really comes down to. If you do some basic math, the numbers get real crazy real quick. 303 billion barrels of oil at about $60 a barrel. I think oil is trading for about $54 a barrel. I know the market took a drop once the market found out, oh, we got new oil? It's worth less. Nevertheless, at $60 a barrel, that's $18 trillion. At $80 a barrel, shout out to Timothy Bright, at $80 a barrel, it's worth $24 trillion. How much debt do we have? 37 trillion. 24 will take a big chunk out of that, right? Now, again, that's not profit, that's raw crude sitting in the ground, okay? Now, the thing about Venezuelan oil is heavy and it's expensive to extract, and their infrastructure is a mess, but none of that changes the big picture. This is one of the largest energy prizes on the planet. And so, you know, Trump, we want to control their oil. In fact, he said this morning, we do control their oil. I think there was a post up from his social media page where he said they've agreed to sell us anywhere from 30 to 50 million barrels of oil at market rate. And we're going to keep the ships, the ships that we've already confiscated, we're going to keep those, right? And so it's about oil. But see, it's not just about oil. And what we're talking about right now is why. Why do we do this? Because again, there's plenty of other bad people on the planet. Why did he do it? And to say it's oil is an oversimplification, because they got oil in Nigeria, right? See, the next thing, it's not just oil, it's also about financial control. Somebody type petrodollar in the chat room. Somebody type petrodollar in the chat room. Okay? After World War II, especially in the 1970s, the United States made deals with major oil producing countries like Saudi Arabia. That oil would be sold primarily to the United States, in US dollars, not in any other currency. So you're not supposed to be able to get oil in the franc or the yen, only US dollars. And in return, the US provided military protection and access to American markets. So a petrodollar is simply a US dollar used to buy oil. And because oil is something every modern country needs, this system created constant global demand for what? The US dollars, because the only way you can get oil is to pay for it with US dollars. And the only way you can get US dollars is to get them from America. So you got to come through us. Shout out to Timothy Bright. Any country that wants oil is going to need a dollar, an American dollar. And that demand helps keep the US dollar strong, because guess what? People got to give us money. They got to they got to do business with us. You see? It gives America enormous influence over the globe and its financial system. And that's why control over oil flow matters. It's not just about energy. It's about who controls the money system behind the energy. And here's a simple version. Oil is still mostly bought and sold in US dollars. That means if a country wants oil, it's going to need US dollars. And see how you got to come back home to us, baby. You see? There's no secret contract forcing everyone to use dollars forever. Some oil deals now use other currencies. About 20% of the global oil trade may already be priced outside the dollar, but the system still heavily favors the US, and whoever controls major oil flows has influence over that system. So it's not just about oil, it's about controlling the financial system, the petrodollar. Now, here's another thing. Our enemies. See, when the United States redirects Venezuelan oil away from China and Russia and towards the US and our other allies, it's not charity, it's strategy. It weakens our enemies and it strengthens American leverage, even if the petrodollar system isn't absolute. Now, some of you all may say, well, enemies is a harsh word. Why would you label China and Russia like that? That's where we get our chop suey and borscht. China and Russia are our enemies. Okay, and they were already deeply embedded inside Venezuela. China loaned billions of dollars in exchange for oil. Russia cooperated on energy and security. Venezuela was a foothold for our adversaries. It was an outpost for them. These are countries that openly want to weaken the United States and destroy it. That's why Venezuela became a pressure point. So we need to stop pretending like this is complicated. China is not our friend. China is, I don't care what LeBron James and the NBA players say, China is our competitor and in many ways our adversary, our enemy. So when the United States cuts China off from the Venezuelan oil and blocks China's expansion into the Western Hemisphere, it hits China where it actually hurts. It hits them in the pocket, it hits them in their influence, and it messes up their money. See, Venezuela is not just one more place China buys oil from. It's a major source for heavy crude, which a lot of Chinese refineries depend on. And many of the reports are showing that China was importing hundreds of thousands of barrels of Venezuelan oil every day. And that may sound small compared to the total amount of items and goods that China imports, but for those refineries that need that kind of oil, it matters. And when the supply gets cut off, China doesn't calmly just adjust. They scramble. They're forced to turn to more riskier sources like Iran and Russia, which means more sanctions, more trouble, and more shipping problems. Because if they catch you with that Iranian shipload of oil, you can get it confiscated. You see? So it's risky. Again, this is not just about oil. It's not just about the petrodollar. It's about control over the Western Hemisphere in a game of global politics. China's been pushing deeper and deeper into Latin America, offering loans, building ports, installing telecom. China's like a dope dealer to give you a little bit. Yeah, go on here and hit that crack rock. Go on here and smoke this weed. Go on here and hit this meth. And then get you hooked. Now they all in your pockets for loans. They built these bridges. You got leases with them people, man. Nevertheless, when China does business like that, it gains leverage. It gains votes at the UN. It gets access to ports near U.S. shipping lanes and influence, a lot more influence close to American territory. So now that the U.S. has redirected Venezuelans' oil away from China and towards us, it's not just the oil we get, China loses a foothold. They lose that strategic advantage. You see? See, China, like any other smart player, it doesn't just buy resources, it buys control over people. You see? And here's another thing you need to understand. China has also played a role in the supplying the chemicals, precursors used to make these drugs that are flooding the United States, killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. You see? They openly talk about reshaping the global order. And let me tell you something else. Have you all ever, I'm gonna go off subject for a minute. Have y'all heard of the opium wars? Have you heard of the Opium Wars? Y'all should look that up. It's a very interesting story. The Opium Wars. This is when Great Britain and Western powers forced drugs into China against their will. See, China was a closed market for centuries. They wouldn't let anybody in. And so the Europeans said, we got to weaken these people. We got to weaken these folks. Let's get them addicted to this dope. So they start pushing opium into the Chinese market. And the Chinese said no, and they fought back. And then England came in and, did what Western powers do. They used their military and they forced them to keep letting that opium get imported. And so you had something called opium dens. You had Chinese people addicted to dope. It was like the meth problem on steroids. Forcing these people to import opium into their country, making their people lazy and shiftless and folk dying and so on and so forth. And let me explain something to you. That still bothers them. If you don't know anything about Asian folk and Asian culture, they have very long historical memories. You see, and China is history matters. And this is why we talk about it so much. Somebody said diabolical. Yeah. Force those people to open their ports up and sell their dope. That's how Great Britain got rich, selling opium to China. Look that up. It is a very diabolical story in history that nobody wants to talk about. And so China is not shy about playing the long game. For years, China's been bold, okay, while America has tried to be polite, and that's changing. But see, by cutting China off from Venezuela, and so they're looking for some catchback. They're looking for some payback, in my opinion. Because I believe the politics are personal, despite what people say. It's not professional, it's personal. People hold grudges. Countries hold grudges. Look it up, Opium Wars. Nevertheless, by cutting China off from Venezuelan oil and blocking its expansion into the Western Hemisphere, the United States is saying no more quiet choking, no more slow squeeze. See, you trying to act like a python, you taking over Jamaica, you taking over these Caribbean islands, you offering loans and ports and stuff to our enemy down in Panama. See, if China wants to compete with America, it's going to have to do it without easy access to our neighborhood or our resources or our influence zone. It's not going to be subtle. It's not going to be hidden. You're going to have to be bold. See, Donald Trump, all he did was stop whispering. He stopped pretending. He started acting like a country that understands power. And in the real world, that's what winning looks like. See, it's not just beating your rival, but making their future harder, more expensive, and more dangerous. Now, we want to move on to Russia. Russia's not our friend either. Vladimir Putin is not America's friend. He's our enemy. I don't care how many pictures of Black Jesus he puts on CNN for you Black folks to see. Vladimir Putin is not our friend. Okay? Y'all would, oh my God, Jesus is Black. I think we all knew that. But Putin put a Black Jesus. Hey, man. So what? You think he's any less racist than any of the rest of these folk over in Europe? Europe is where racism started. But what you need to understand, this man's goal is to restore Russia to what it believes was its rightful power and territory under the old Soviet Union. Countries like Ukraine are not accidents or misunderstandings. They are targets. Putin came up through the KGB. That's the equivalent of the CIA. And he worked it during the Cold War. He watched the Soviet Union collapse. He watched the United States win that struggle, especially under President Ronald Reagan. And those policies helped break the Soviet Union and ended the Cold War. And Putin and many Russians of his generation, they saw that collapse as humiliation. And Putin said openly that the fall of the Soviet Union was one of the greatest disasters of the 20th century. Ever since, he's been trying to reverse that. And that's what the war in Ukraine is really about. Putin is trying to pull former Soviet territory back under Russia's control and the so-called peace talks and ceasefires and promises apart. It's just a delay strategy. He just paused and he's going to escalate again. And the goal is to outlast Donald Trump. Okay? He understands that every 4 years a new president comes in office. He is he who remains. That's who Putin is. Somebody type he who remains. That's who Putin is. And presidents come and go. All he's going to do is wait for someone that he believes he can pressure and manipulate and outmaneuver. Okay? That's time is part of Putin's strategy. But Trump is not going for it. You see? Russia's power runs on energy, though. Tanks don't move without fuel. Planes don't fly without fuel. Trains, trucks, factories, weapon systems, all of that depends on oil and gas. And without energy and money, Russia can't fight wars. It can't project power, and it can't rebuild its empire. Energy is the lifeblood of any country, especially is what's fueling Putin's ambitions. And so this is where Venezuela comes in. If the United States cuts Russia from Venezuelan oil and limits Russia's presence in the Western Hemisphere, it hurts Russia in three major ways: money, supply routes, and global influence. Russia isn't just casually buying oil from Venezuela. For years, these Russian-owned companies have been deeply involved in Venezuela's oil industry, even after U.S. sanctions. Russia found ways to stay involved through joint ventures and partnerships and sneaky stuff like that. You see? That means Venezuela wasn't just selling oil to Russia, it was helping Russia work around sanctions and keep the oil money flowing. So when the United States redirects Venezuelan oil away from Russia, like what did Trump say? We're in control now. Now, when the U.S. takes control over Venezuela, oil from Russia, and redirects it towards the U.S. and our allies, Russia doesn't just lose oil, it loses a safe place to do business, it loses a friendly partner, and a system that helped it dodge economic pressure. You see? Now let's connect this directly to the Ukraine war. For almost a year, Trump has been trying to end this war in Ukraine. And see, this is where the pressure really matters. Russia's war depends on oil and gas and money that pays for weapons, soldiers, fuel, supplies. And reports show that Russia's energy revenue is dropped sharply by as much as 35%. Russia's spending this money on war and invading Ukraine since 2022. And at the same time, the Western countries have tightened up sanctions and closed loopholes. All of this is designed to squeeze Russia and their income. And so when the United States weakens Russia's ability to operate in Venezuela, it adds even more pressure on the country that's already burning through money in a fight that lasts far too long. Okay? So it's not just about money, it's about and oil, it's about power and presence. And again, these are enemies. Nevertheless, here's the bottom line. In plain terms, taking Venezuela away from Russia, it makes Russia poor, it makes them weaker, it makes them more isolated. And all while it's stuck in this costly war with the Ukraine. Now, those are some reasons. And those are some reasons I want you to think about those reasons. Okay? Now, whatever you think, if we're talking about motive, let's be clear. This analysis I'm giving you is not conspiracy. It's logic, it's straightforward, it's unapologetic. Venezuela has lots of oil. Oil equals long-term money and power. China and Russia were using Venezuela as an energy source and a source of influence in the Western Hemisphere. That's America's backyard. And what did America do? it shut that down. It took the oil, it redirected the oil, it tightened control over the sea, it cut off its rivals, it strengthened its position. Okay? That's it. There's no mystery there. This is not a fairy tale. This wasn't about being nice. This wasn't about feelings. This was about America's interest. And once you understand that, then the real question is, what's the problem? Aren't we America first? This is what I voted for. I love to go back to 50 cents a gallon for gas. Woo. Okay. So why would you as an American complain? You got all these people out here wringing their hands. It feels so aggressive. It's unfair. What do you think America first meant? And I know I'm black. I'm supposed to stay in my lane. But again, what do you think America first meant? Because this is what it looks like. This is exactly what people voted for. They didn't vote for America to apologize. They didn't vote for America to step aside while our enemies built parallel financial systems and tried to undermine and replace us. We did not vote for America to fund our own decline. We voted for a president that acts like he understands power, taking oil away from our enemies, reinforcing the dollar and its central role, securing energy access, and making it clear that the Western Hemisphere is not a playground for our enemies. That's not reckless. That's rational. That's strategic. That's American leadership. That's America first. You don't have to like it. You don't have to pretend you don't understand it. But that's what it is. That is America first in action. And honestly, it may be one of the clearest examples of the most American things I have ever seen an American president do in my whole lifetime. So the real question is, why the United States did this? What's the real reason? Because that's all of that could have been handled elsewhere. That's all policy. I'm just saying, I'm gonna slide into something else that you all probably wasn't ready for. Now, before we go a little further, I want to make sure, are you learning something? If you learn something, I should earn something. That's all I'm asking. If you learn something, I should earn something. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Now, we deep down into this, but we're going to wrap up real quick. It's coming to an end real quick. What was the motivation? I talked about oil. I talked about the petrodollar. I talked about keeping our enemies at bay. But the truth is, there's got to be something more there. Because there's too many facts that haven't been accounted for. And what I want you all to understand is my president, who I voted for, okay? I voted for Donald Trump. This is what I voted for. I vote my interest. I particularly voted because, hell, I wanted to pay lower taxes, and he's a Republican. I'd have voted for a Martian if they would have lowered my taxes, because I'm tired of working and paying for Somali immigrants to rob the welfare system. I'm tired of paying money for expensive hotels for immigrants who come up through the southern border. I feel like I should be able to keep my own money. I'm tired of that. I was tired of a porous southern border. I felt America was getting a little too dangerous. So I voted for that. But largely, I voted for my own financial interests. I want to pay less taxes, period. I realize I pay less taxes under Republican government. You know what? I can deal with the racism. Racism is his ethos to America as the air we breathe. It's not going anywhere. Okay? I can deal with that. My people have been dealing with that for 407 years. I can deal with it for another 3 or 4 years if it means I'm gonna lower my taxes. Nevertheless, the thing you need to understand about my president that I voted for is that he is petty. Somebody type petty in the chat room. Somebody type petty in the chat room. I think we all can agree that Donald J. Trump is petty. Not a little stubborn, not overly proud. He is petty in the sense that he never lets go of perceived slights. He is petty. He doubles down when he's wrong. He carries grudges for decades. And if his ego takes a hit, this isn't this is not something he's gonna let go. Okay? People have said that Donald Trump for years, his supporters say it, his critics say it, his former aides say it, his journalists, rivals. He called Marco Rubio Little Hands Marco and called Jeb Bush slow. He is called, he's petty, okay? I couldn't even get, I'm not that petty. He's petty. He is petty. He doesn't like to be corrected. He does not like being embarrassed. And he is absolutely does not like admitting he is wrong, even when he is wrong. And the evidence and the history show him that he's wrong. Once Trump locks in a belief, especially one tied to crime and punishment and strength, he clings to it. And he does so for a lifetime. And the clearest proof of that is the Central Park Five. This is more than 30 years later. Shout out to Renee Wansley. More than 30 years later. After the DNA evidence cleared these boys, after the real perpetrator confessed, after the New York paid settlements, Trump still insists that these boys were guilty. He still won't apologize. The man took a full-page ad out in the New York Times saying that these kids need the death certificate, death penalty. Okay? He still says he's right. And that alone tells you how his mind works. When Trump commits to a narrative, facts be damned. Okay? Time doesn't soften it. Accountability doesn't matter. Being right matters more than being accurate. Damn, petty. Now put that mindset next to what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Remember Barack Obama? You want to know why I'm talking? Let's move forward with the petty. You know why Donald Trump is president? Because Barack Obama couldn't keep his big mouth shut. He made a few too many jokes about Donald Trump. At the Correspondents' Dinner, he roasted him. He publicly, personally, and globally roasted him on national TV with Trump sitting there and his wife beside him, okay, and his family and the political and the media class laughing along. Barack Obama mocked his intelligence. He ridiculed the birther rhetoric. He treated him like a punchline. And you can see it on Trump's face. No laughter, no grin, just a tight jaw and a fixed stare. That wasn't a man amused by the comedy of our, at that time, sitting president, who then tried to humiliate him and ended it with, "You will never be the president of the United States." You see? And see, what you understand is Trump does not handle humiliation well. Especially not from someone who he believes that he is superior to. And you best believe that the good president of the United States has a tinge bit more racism than the average person. You may not, well, I know you don't think he's racist. I know that's convenient for a lot of you folk, but I believe he is. Just like a lot of other folks are. Bottom line is he definitely thought he was better than Barack Obama. And so the nerve of Barack Obama to sit up there and talk reckless about it. A black man who was president of the United States, and you disrespected Trump in front of his wife and the world? That moment wasn't about politics. It was about ego damage. And see, Trump is the kind of man who spends years trying to repay ego damage with interest. And there have been plenty of insiders who've said Trump didn't even expect to win in 2016. He ran. He ran to boost his brand. He ran to force respect. But then he won. And once he won, he stopped being about branding and became about payback. Undoing everything Obama did, erasing Obama's legacy, reversing everything Obama touched, policy, tone, symbolism, history. Trump didn't just want to be the president, he wanted to be the opposite of Barack Obama. And see, that's why that obsession never faded. That's why he went after Obama by name. That's why he dismantled Obama's air policy with near surgical satisfaction. That's why he never let go of the birth of lie, even after Obama released his long-form birth certificate. This wasn't about a policy disagreement. This was personal vengeance. Shout out to Timothy Bright. And here's the petty truth, black people. Understand instinctively. You get it. Words matter. Public disrespect matters. You don't clown someone that's worth $1 billion with that kind of ego and expect him to just move on. Obama embarrassed Trump, and Trump spent the next decade embarrassing Barack Obama by winning the presidency, by tearing down his legacy, and then turning around and winning it again when they thought he was gone politically. You see? So when people ask, why do we have to deal with Donald Trump? Here's the uncomfortable truth: because Barack Obama opened his big mouth and disrespected that man. Now, you might support Bob. I voted for Barack twice, but sometimes you need to shut up. You got to watch who you offend. The human psychology mixed with power and ego, one joke, one night, one room full of laughter, and the rest is history. And history will want to know what motivated this man. Those of us who saw it live, like myself, and understand it plainly, and understand power and understand influence. Trump doesn't forget being made to look small. And he's going to spend a lifetime trying to prove he isn't. So now let's fast forward to 2020. Are y'all with me? Because we wrapping this thing up. Now it's going to go fast. Trump lost an election. Not just any election in 2020. He lost to old man Joe Biden. Barack Obama's boy. Biden is someone that Trump openly mocked as weak, as sleepy, as inferior. And that loss wasn't just political for Trump. It was more personal. It was humiliating. Instead of accepting it, he did what he always does. He denied it. He attacked it. He vowed to undo it. He declared the election stolen. He never walked it back either, not once. His supporters still chanted. His moment still runs on it. Then came the 4-year stretch that really lit the fire. We lived through it, man. You had prosecutors going after. Y'all remember this? This is recent history. From Fonnie Willis to Alvin Bragg. They were trying to take the man's money. They were trying to take his freedom. You had the Attorney General of New York trying to take his wealth. They were claiming prison. He's going to prison. His businesses were under attack. You attacked his children. You had his children investigated. What is a man if he can't protect his children? Now, again, I started this broadcast off and I told you I am a typical patriarchal male. You understand? I'm a typical patriarchal male. You're not a man if you can't take care of your children, family. You feel less than a man if you're sitting there and another man is insulting you in front of your wife, family. I'm trying to help you understand. They hit all the buttons. See, the message from the political class was clear. You're done. And for a man like Trump, who measures everything in wins and losses, that wasn't just acceptable, it was unforgivable. So January 6th didn't come out of nowhere. It came from the belief that, right or wrong, that Trump had been robbed and humiliated. And Trump has carried that grievance like a loaded weapon ever since. He doesn't see the post-2020 years as accountability. He sees them as punishment for losing. And in his mind, punishment means someone cheated. So when people ask what really motivates Trump right now, the answer isn't complicated. It's not just oil. It's not just geopolitics. It is damn sure not America first. It's vindication. It's revenge. Trump wants to prove that he didn't lose. Do you all hear me? Now, I know there's some smart folks that understand where I'm coming from. I already know some smart people in here that already know where I'm going because I've yet to hear anybody talk about this. Trump wants to prove he didn't lose the 2020 election. He wasn't beaten, not by sleepy Joe Biden. He wants to prove that the people who tried to bury him were wrong. He wants to flip the story from a defeat to revenge. And if that means reopening old grievances and reviving discredited theories or using raw power to rewrite the narrative whole cloth, so be it. Again, this is the same man who still argue about something that happened in the 1980s, i.e., the Central Park Five. He still refuses to admit he was wrong for some way back then. You think he's going to let go of the notion that the 2020 election was stolen from him? Hell no. That's why the moves in this second term feel different. They're louder, they're meaner, they're more deliberate. Remember, somebody tried to take this man's head off. Remember that? They tried to take him from his family. He damn near feel like he's motivated by God to enact revenge. See, this is not just strategy, it's reassertion. It's Trump saying, you didn't beat me, you didn't break me, and now I'm back to remind you who's in charge. And once you understand that personality, once you understand how deeply he hates being wrong, everything that comes next starts to make a lot more sense. Somebody type voting machine in the chat room. Somebody type voting machine in the chat room. Where are my new subscribers at? Because you can hate me, but you're going to watch. This is going to be all over the internet. Watch, you'll see, it'll start seeping through. People come over to my page and they say, they don't say anything, they don't subscribe. Somebody type voting machine in the chat room. But what they will do is take what I say and they'll clean it up and change it around a little bit. You know, they use better words. These young people are smart. They well-spoken. Uncle D speak Ebonics. You see? Somebody type voting machine in the chat room. See, you all are trying to figure, what in the hell does this invading another goddamn country and kidnapping the goddamn president and dragging the president have to do with Donald Trump losing the damn election 4 years ago? Uncle D. On the surface, it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? It sounds like some kind of conspiracy theory, some nonsense. But once you understand how Trump thinks, the connection stops sounding crazy and it starts sounding very Trump-ish. Donald Trump has never accepted the idea that he legitimately lost the 2020 election. Not once, not for a second. From the night the votes were counted, he has said the same thing over and over. It was stolen. And his supporters still believe because he still believes it. And this isn't some passing talking point from him. It's a personal obsession. And from the very beginning, Trump didn't just say they cheated. He said the machines cheated. The electronic voting machines became the villain in this story and tied those machines over and over again was what name? Venezuela. See, among all the posts in 2020, there's one in particular never died inside of Trump's orbit. The claim that Venezuela somehow had a hand in the U.S. voting technology that caused for him to have the election stolen from him. And that idea has been laughed out of courtrooms. It's been demolished by fact checkers and, It's cost the media millions of dollars and so on and so forth and defamation claims. Fox News got sued for it, right? And for most people, normal people, that's the end of the story. But Trump is not normal people. He's not about letting things go, okay? Trump's Department of Justice has continued poking around these claims in any way they can. They've been interviewing people, okay? They've been interviewing people who pushed the Venezuela voting machine theory. They've been looping those claims and the broader investigations tied to Venezuelan crime and drug trafficking. Again, it's not about whether or not the story is true. It's about the fact that Trump wants it to be true. Nevertheless, the story always circles back to a company called Smartmatic, a voting technology firm co-founded by Venezuelan engineers whose machines were used in Venezuelan elections under Hugo Chavez and Nicolás Maduro. And we know that they have some bogus elections going on down there. That's how, they were able to do what they did. So Smartmatic actually pulled out of Venezuela in 2018 and accused Maduro's government of election manipulation, but the detail never mattered to certain folk. Now, after the 2020 story mutated into something simpler and more useful for Trump, Venezuela equal rigged elections, Smartmatic, Dominion, machines, fraud, stolen victory. Okay? Now, whatever you think, Trump doesn't care. Because for Trump, the facts are secondary to the narrative, and the narrative he cannot live with is that I lost fairly to Joe Biden. And someone, look, in his mind, Venezuela stopped being just a socialist mess or a corrupt oil state. It became something symbolic. It was the villain, a stand-in for the injustice done to him. And seen through that lens, Venezuela isn't just about geopolitics anymore. It's personal. So capturing Maduro, humiliating his regime, asserting dominance over him, in Trump's mentality, it links to that stolen election, and it's not just a strategy, it's revenge. But here's the bigger picture. Who would know more about these voting machines than Nicolás Maduro? See, because it's not just that the voting machines were there. It was like they could be controlled from Venezuela. That's one of the stories out there. And who would be in control of that? Nicolás Maduro. Now, let's talk about what's going on. And I'm gonna bring this all in a minute. But where all my dudes have been to prison? Where all my guys that did some time? Now I'm not talking about you got locked up for a traffic ticket. Where all my boys that got felonies? You don't have to announce yourself and you don't have to announce what you did. But I visited enough prisons to know what's going on. Back when I was a young law clerk, I see them all the time coming in with their orange jumpsuits, the gray jumpsuits, pink jumpsuits, little plastic flip-flops. See, right now, Nicolás Maduro is living in a reality he never known in his life. He's not living in a palace. He's not being chaperone town in a motorcade. He doesn't have any aides. He doesn't have any generals. There are no loyalists. There's nobody calling him El Presidente. He's in a federal detention center in Brooklyn, New York, and it's cold. And he's wearing a jumpsuit and he's locked into a routine that he does not control. The lights are on all night. The air is on. It's cold. And he can't adjust. He's eating food he's been served food he didn't choose. He wouldn't even recognize this as a meal back home. He's behind steel doors. He's having to deal with counts. He's having to deal with silence. He's having to deal with isolation. And whether it is fully sunk in, I don't know. But this is what powerlessness feels like. And it's only just beginning. See, I don't think Nicolás Maduro has truly grasped his situation. When he got off the plane, he was reportedly wishing people Happy New Year. Did y'all see the little video? Happy New Year, Happy New Year. And at the initial court appearance, he identified himself as president of Venezuela, a prisoner of war. Okay, as if titles and circumstances still meant anything. He's not a prisoner of war. He's just a prisoner. He's a convict. The man thinks that if saying it out loud could make it true, but that illusion can't last because the truth is brutal. He's not the president anymore. In fact, the Supreme Court of Venezuela has already sworn in the interim president. They got an interim government going on. The United States doesn't recognize him, and more importantly, Venezuela doesn't want him back. If the people of Venezuela wanted him back, they would have voted him in. Allegedly, he stole the election. They didn't want him. Again, whatever embarrassment or humiliation exists over how their president was taken, there's no popular movement demanding his return. So sooner rather than later, the walls will close in mentally. The calendar is going to stop meaning much. The idea that this is temporary is going to fade, and the real thought will arrive, the one every high-level federal defendant eventually has. There's nowhere else to go. No exile, no negotiation between governments, no last-minute rescue, just court dates, motions, and the possibility of spending the rest of your life inside of American prison. And then there's his wife. Not only did they get him and snatch him up, they took his wife, Celia Flores, and she ain't built for this life. No one marries the head of state expecting to die in a foreign prison. She didn't sign up for concrete walls and federal charges and a lifetime label as a co-defendant in an American prison. And here's the part people need to understand. Pressure doesn't just break men, family, it fractures marriages. If you've seen it before, men lose their health and their money and their status, and suddenly the loyalty they thought was unbreakable starts to crack between them and their woman. And this is worse than that. This is life is imprisonment with this wife because she was dealing with this man as a husband. And as a lawyer, I'm going to tell you, at some point, she's going to get a lawyer, and if she can't afford one, a lawyer will be appointed to her. And it's going to be a really good one. We just flew one up here from Houston who signed in to represent him. And they're going to be two separate lawyers. They're going to be an American-based criminal defense lawyer who's experienced and knows what he's talking about, probably several. And that lawyer's only job is to protect her and advocate for her interests because this is too high profile. His reputation is on the line. That lawyer is going to sit down with her and tell her the truth, not the politics. You need to think about yourself. You need to think about your own survival. And the only currency you have left is information. Somebody type snitching in the chat room. Somebody type snitching and telling in the chat room. Come on now. Let's play the game. Somebody type snitching and telling in the chat room. That's how the federal system works. Cooperation, if you prefer, talking, flipping, snitching, call it whatever you want. But it's how prosecutors build cases and how defendants try to save their own selves. And once the spouses are charged together, the dynamic becomes dangerous because now the pressure isn't just external, it's inside the relationship. Every conversation becomes a risk. Every silence becomes suspicious. Every lawyer's meeting pulls them further apart. That's the reality that Maduro is walking into. It's not ideology, family. It's not speeches. It's not defiant. Just time, isolation, fear, and the slow understanding that the only way out of this may be through each other and against each other. Look, I can understand arresting the foreign dictator. We did that in 1989 with Manuel Noriega. You guys remember Noriega? Some of you all were too young. But see, this whole thing stopped making sense to me a couple days ago when I found out they extradited the president of Venezuela. Damn. They didn't just take him, though. They took his wife. That's not normal. That's not standard. That's not even what America, we don't do that, do we? That's what we do. Even if the United States is dealing with dictators and drug traffickers and so-called enemies of the state, we don't involve their wives in it. When the United States invaded Panama and captured Manuel Noriega in 1989, we didn't capture his wife. We didn't drag her out the house. We didn't indict her as leverage. We didn't parade her into the federal courthouse. Noriega was the target. He was arrested alone. He was tried alone. That's how it usually works. Even when the U.S. decides to do something this extreme and target a leader, we don't target their wives. So when I saw Maduro's wife, they took her too. My antenna went up immediately. As an old trial lawyer in Texas, my antenna was like, what in the hell is going on? Because now we're not talking about neutral law enforcement anymore. We're talking about pressure. We're talking about leverage. Why take the wife? She wasn't elected. She wasn't the president. She wasn't commanding troops or signing oil deals. And on its face, it makes no sense. And that's exactly why it makes perfect sense. In the federal system, bringing in a spouse is one of the oldest, dirtiest, low-down tricks that prosecutors use. It's one of the most effective pressure tactics there. Y'all baby mamas, your baby mama's telling on you. And see, you don't do that unless you intend to squeeze. You don't do it unless you plan to make the defendant look across the table and ask himself one question: how do I save her? And see, this isn't speculation. This is how federal prosecutions actually work. They don't just charge people. They isolate them emotionally. They separate them from power. They strip them of status. And when they bring in a husband or wife together, it's because they intend to flip somebody. And let's be real for a second. You really expect me to believe this was just a coincidence? That they happened to arrest both of them because she was just standing there? No, it was planned. This was calculated. This was a message, because here's the truth. If the United States only wanted Maduro out of the way, they could have done that. There's plenty of ways. Well, I mean, we've unalived many a head of state before. They could have, if they just wanted him out the way, they didn't have to kidnap him and drag him up here, right? He could have disappeared. We do that all the time. The CIA we've toppled governments. We've assassinated leaders. If they just wanted to remove that threat, they could have done that. It'd have been a lot cleaner and it'd have been a lot quieter to do that. But they didn't want the man dead. They wanted him alive. They wanted him alive and talking in chains. And his wife is the key to that. See, when reality finally sets in, when Maduro realized that he's not going back to Caracas, that he's not getting paraded in as a hero, that he's not being exchanged, but instead he's going to be staring down life in the U.S. federal prison next to El Chapo, that's when the bargaining starts. That's when the defendants start asking what they can give. And in that moment, Celia Flores, his wife, becomes a pressure point. Because no matter how defiant a man acts, when he realizes his power is gone, his country doesn't want him back, and his wife may die in prison with him because of something he did, the calculations change. That's why this wasn't just about oil, family. That's why this wasn't just about China or Russia. This was personal. This was psychological. This was about breaking a man publicly. This is why the capture of his wife was a giveaway. That was a red flag. It told me off top, there's something more coming. People can't pretend this is business as usual. If you can fake it if you want to. But history tells me otherwise. They want cooperation, they want testimony, they want leverage, or they want a spectacle. And whether people are ready to admit it or not, that moment when they took both of them was the moment they stopped being routine and became something else entirely. Look, man, here's my prediction. It might be controversial, but it's what it is. Maduro and his lawyers know one thing for certain. Donald Trump believes that the 2020 election was stolen. He's never walked that back, not once. His supporters still believe it. And one of the longest running claims tied to that belief involves electronic voting machines in Venezuela. That theory has been rejected by many courts. It's been debunked by experts, and it's all, it is what it is. Okay? But here's the part people don't like to talk about. Okay? If you're Nicolás Maduro and you're staring at life in prison, in a U.S. prison, and you know exactly what the president of the United States wants to hear, what incentive do you have to stay silent? Now add the pressure point that changes everything. His wife is locked up with him right down the hall on the 13th floor in Brooklyn at the federal penitentiary. It's not just about legal trouble. It's not just, it's personal. His pride, his ego, his masculinity. Maduro has built an entire public identity on strength and dominance and control. How does he look? How does he feel if he's sitting in a cell while your wife faces life in prison alongside you? You're not even man enough to protect your own wife. Any man keeps his wife as far away from his bullshit as she possibly can. How does it affect him if he got his wife caught up in his bullshit, family? As a man. And here's the cold part about it. If he doesn't talk, she more likely than will. Any competent American defense lawyer is going to get her to say, any lawyer is going to get her to try to flip up. Shout out to Sylvia Love. They're going to tell her the same thing they tell every Cody spouse in federal court. Protect yourself, get your own lawyer, look for a deal. Cooperation is how people reduce sentence. Cooperation is how people go home. Cooperation is how people survive. And that means Maduro is under pressure from every direction. Prosecutors, time, isolation, and the very real possibility that the person closest to him could flip first. Experienced people will tell you the federal system knows this is how that usually goes. And here's the cold part about it. Whatever Maduro says, Donald Trump is going to work with it. Defendants in his position, they'll say whatever they think will help them. Whether they have real information or not, they'll offer it. If they don't have any information, they'll exaggerate, they'll embellish. Sometimes they just outright invent narratives they think the prosecutors want to hear. This happens far more often than the public likes to admit. Prosecutors know it. The judges know it. They may try to verify it independently. And we understand that lies end cooperation immediately, but that doesn't stop desperate people from trying. You see? Again, Donald Trump doesn't like losing. He didn't like this embarrassment that he had to deal with. And he especially didn't like losing the people he believed that were beneath him. And he lost in 2020. And he was investigated, he was prosecuted, and he was financially targeted and threatened with prison. His children were dragged into court. His name was dragged through the mud. His supporters stormed the Capitol because they believed it was stolen, the election, and he did too. And that grievance never went away. So if Maduro starts talking, which he will, and says anything that appears to support Trump's belief that Venezuela helped steal the election and the election was rigged, Trump and his allies will absolutely use it. They don't even have to prove it, not because the courts agree, but because it validates the story Trump has been telling for years. And in exchange, Maduro will get less time, or his wife will get less time. You understand how that works? That's the system. See, this conversation I'm having with you all is not about proof, it's about motive. Maduro's motive for survival, Trump's motive for vindication. And when those two motives collide inside a federal judicial system under extreme pressure with lives and legacies on the line, things gonna get messy. It's gonna get politically interesting. And that's a reality that I think you all need to understand. Now, I've done a lot of work tonight, and I want to thank everybody who's contributed to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. I do have a few more things to say before I leave, but I want to first acknowledge and thank everybody who's contributed to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Now, if you've learned something tonight, if I've caused you to see this in a different angle that you otherwise would not have seen it, then I should earn something. And I know you all have. I know you. I can tell by the fact that you all been hitting the like button. I know you have. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who have not thought about this angle and what's going to happen. They're going to use this man to say whatever they need him to say so he can save himself and his wife. And this is allowing Trump to kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of political reasons why we can do this, a lot of America first reasons, but at the end of the day, this is personal. You dig? You feel me? But again, we got 17 Super Chats, man. Let's acknowledge the beautiful people who contributed to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. We will actually start off with the folks who came through with the Cash Apps, man. I want to make sure I get them in first. Let's see who we got. We have my man Lucifer Ratzinger. Thank you so much for the $25 super Cash App. Shout out to my man Turner. Thank you for the $500 Cash App, baby. Appreciate that. We're gonna start this year off right. We got Uncle D in the house tonight. Yeah. Bars. Shout out to my man Richard Cleveland for the $2 Cash App. Shout out to Turner again for the $5 Cash App. Shout out to Reginald Phillips. Thank you so much. He said, blessing. I appreciate you, family. Terrence Patterson, thank you so much for both of these gentlemen contributed $10. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for your hard-earned contributions. Again, you don't have to give me $1, okay? But if you earn something, if you learn something, I should earn something. You definitely have something to talk about tomorrow at the water cooler. You be like, this ain't about oil. It's not about this. It's about Trump getting somebody to explain that election was stolen from him, because none of the stuff that happened to Donald Trump in the past 4 years between his first presidency and now would have happened had he been president. So he blames even the assassination attempt. All of that is because the election was stolen from him. So he has something like a blood vendetta against the people who stole it from him. You understand? This is how this man thinks. This is the way he sees things. And if you study people like this long enough, all they need to do is pick an enemy, and that motivates them. This is where we at, man. Very interesting times. But anyway, big shout out to Urban Eagle. Thank you so much, my brother, for the $5 super sticker. And let me also do this. Thank everybody who's contributing to the Super Hearts when the broadcast is over. I want to give a shout out to everybody on the replay. Appreciate y'all for making it this long. Shout out to Mr. 43TX, a little back pay. Thanks for all you do. Yes, sir. Appreciate that. We got 19 super chats. Maybe we can get 20. That'll be plenty. We ain't there yet, but we ain't done yet either. So y'all see if y'all can get me to 20 super chats, and that'll be cool with me, man. But let's see who else we got in here. I want to make sure I get all my. One and only XX, thank you for a preach. Thanks, no problem. Thank you so much. My man, Lord Geotron 7189, Uncle D, I'm still absolutely rolling with you. Big G, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, young brother. Always good to hear from him. Let's see, Timothy Bright 7064. What's up, Deacon? I bought VTI stock this week. Congratulations. Do you have another suggestion about a stock I could research? Maybe buy, brother. I'm gonna do another broadcast on that financial aspect in the near future. But you know, we're gonna do what we do right here. Shout out to Yaya's kids. We're resting. That's right, baby. We are resting. Shout out to you, and shout out to everybody who's contributed to my legal practice. Okay, all the people who have contacted me for consultations, all the people who contacted me to represent them. You guys make sure you understand. I'm not begging anybody for anything, but I am going to ask you to contact me if you've been involved in a motor vehicle accident. Now, there's a lot of people out here who utilize my services, whether it's a 1-hour consultation or a 2-hour consultation. I've helped people get through medical school. I've helped folks get their legal, I'll say police licenses back. I've helped folks do a lot of stuff. And I appreciate that. I help people found companies and corporations over the past 5 years, just folks that I met on the internet. But my main thing is car accidents. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to continue speaking the truth. It allows me to not hold back. It allows me to be honest, because you all are the ones that keep me in business, which I pretty much keep separate from my YouTube. And I very rarely ask you all to even entertain that, but you can Google me. You can see I'm one of the best lawyers in the country when it comes to personal injury cases. So if you've been injured in a car accident, at 713-229-0770 is the way in which you can reach out to me wherever you are around America. As you all know, I'm licensed in multiple states and I have friends all over. So if I can't help you, I can refer you out. But if you've been involved in a car accident in Texas, give me a call. I'm pretty much the same person on the phone as I am on these YouTube streets. I'm honest, I'm hardworking, and I'm hard hitting. So shout out to everybody who's helped me in that regard. Help me, let me help you. Okay, that's what you need to do. Let me help you with your car accident. If you've been in a wreck, let me help you get the check. Praise God. Anyway, who else we got? Shout out to my man. They say, oh my goodness, I lost somebody. Let me see. Shout out to the one and only Preach fan. I will. Thank you so much. I think I read some of these already. I done got past these. I done got sidetracked. My man Brolick Sean said, paying tithes for this good word from you, Bliss. Thank you so much. Lord Gigatron again says, now they're not getting rich off our neighbors. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. Timothy Bright, I don't like politics yet. If we had Kamala and Obama, Kamala and a fourth term, we'd be screwed. Yes, Trump, because oil, send a message to Putin. Thank you so much, Timothy Bright. Soon be time to buy Chevron stock. Yeah, y'all might want to go ahead and get some oil stock. I want to get that now. KAW, thank you for the $10. Renee Wansley, thank you for the $10 super sticker. Timothy Bright, what? Trump racist? Deacon, no. What a racist think he's a racist? I'm just saying. Let me see who else we got. That would be a good short snippet, Deacon. Thank you so much. Yeah, man, snip up all my stuff and send it to me if you like it. You can email it to me. Sylvia Love Jones, happy Wednesday, Dennis, in the chat. Is this true that spouses have immunity to not testify against each other they have immunity if they choose to, but if they're trying to cop a deal, they're not going to utilize that immunity, baby. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. That girl is going to go for herself. She's not trying to spend the rest of her life in prison with him. At least she want to go to witness protection program and move to Missouri or something like that. If she can't go back to Caracas, are you kidding me? She don't want to do that? Oh no. Shout out to Mark Freelancer. Thank you so much, brother. Always good to see you in here. I learned something. Good looking out. All right, so we got 20 super chats. Oh, we got 19 super chats. We didn't make it to 20. It'd have been great if we could have got to 20, but that's all right. We'll come back another night. Yeah, but we're going to keep on fighting the good fight. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. Let me make sure I got all my cash apps. Got these guys in, these guys and gals. Okay, so look, fam. We're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. We are at the 3-hour mark. Not that that matters. I'll go as long as you guys are contributing and enjoying the broadcast. But I think I've done enough. I think I've done a lot of work tonight. What do you guys think? Did you learn something tonight? For those who didn't contribute, it's no big deal. It's all right. Did you learn something tonight? That's the most important thing. Did you subscribe to the channel tonight? Because see, tonight I have it on subscribers only. So only the people who can only the people who subscribe to the channel can comment, because we had a few people saying some mean things in the chat room. And, you know, Uncle D is trying to keep it PG for the 2-6. You dig? Anyway. We got some more super chats. Shout out to folks. Somebody said, what's your email? My email for the purposes of this is spurlingdennis@gmail.com. I will let it run along the bottom for a little while. spurlingdennis@gmail.com. You can reach me at spurlingdennis@gmail.com. And of course, the Cash App is up here. And then, of course, my office number is 713-229-0770. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Feel free to give me a call. Now, again, family, let me say this plainly, because I want to conclude and I want you all to go about your day and enjoy your evening and hopefully digest this. I don't want to sugarcoat anything. All right. I'm not concerned about who's uncomfortable. Okay. I'm going to just say it like this. We tried to tell you. We tried to tell you. Who am I talking about? Huh? Who am I talking about? We tried to tell you. Black people have been warning folk for generations how America really works, how power really moves, how rules really bend, and who they bend for. We told you all, didn't we? We told you all that America's fairness is conditional, didn't we? We told you that. And you all told us to work harder. You all told us you'll be fine. That was a myth, wasn't it? We told you all that justice in this country is selective and situational and enforced based on who you are and not just what you do. And what did you all say to us? You said we were playing victim. You said we were bitter. You said we were exaggerating. You said America wasn't like that anymore. You told us to stop talking about race. You told us to trust the institutions. You told us progress was inevitable. Now look at you. Now you're watching America and watch how it really moves. Open, aggressive, unapologetic, and suddenly you're shocked. You're outraged. You're out here ringing bells and clutching your pearls and asking, how could this happen? It happened because this is who America has always been. And the only difference now is that the mask is off. The mask is off locally in the United States, and the mask has been exported. This is how we are. Trump is talking about taking Greenland, invading Cuba, bombing Mexico, and a couple other ones. And if Nigeria doesn't watch it, they're going to get invaded too. We're going to take their oil. It's a new phase of the same old country. All we did was export what we've been doing over here. And when I say we, I'm talking about them. It's a big, bad, bold, loud, beautiful, bigoted America on the world stage for everybody to see. We're in a different time period now. White folks in America, they no longer feel the need to pretend that it believes in fairness and restraint or moral consistency. And don't tell me this is friends. Don't tell me, I'm talking out the side of my neck. Don't insult my intelligence when you have people like Nick Fuentes are treated like political thinkers. When the vice president of the United States feels the need to address this man, when you have people like Charlie Kirk who get compared to Dr. Martin Luther King, a man who openly pushed racist narratives, that tells me everything I need to know. This isn't underground. You see? This is not underground. This is mainstream. This is institutional. This is rewarded behavior. And so now you want black people to come off the bench? You want these folk want black people to get outraged? You want us to get emotionally invested because some South American dictator got kidnapped and brought to America? Who's been the president of one of the most racist, anti-black countries in the world? We don't get outrage on your schedule. In fact, this is what I voted for. And let me be very specific, because I want to be clear about something. I didn't vote this way just because I suddenly believe America is just. I didn't vote because I thought the system was finally going to work for all of my black brothers and sisters. I voted so you all could be exposed. I voted for you all to be exposed to the chaos that black folk have been exposed to. I wanted to be visible. I wanted to see the swamp drain and the chaos that it caused. I wanted the rest of the country to feel what black folk have been dealing with in this country for 407 years. I wanted the rest of the world to see what Black America has been telling the rest of the world. This is what America is about. I wanted you to feel helpless. I wanted you to feel the rage. I want you to feel the uncertainty. The realization that power does not care about your funky feelings. See, that's not cruelty. Me wanting you to experience what we've been experiencing, that's therapy. So you didn't believe us. You mock our movements, Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter. You mock our heroes. You mock our leaders, you assassinate them. You dispel our spiritual beliefs and systems. See, you didn't believe us when we warned you calmly. You didn't believe us when we showed you history. You didn't believe us when we showed you data. So now you can feel it. Don't make this, look, this is not apathy. Black folks are not asleep. We're not confused either. And we damn sure not lazy. And we're not checked out. We see everything that's going on. We watching. All my foundation of Black American folk, type, we watching, but we're doing it carefully. We're assessing. But what we're not doing is we're not volunteering our emotional labor to stabilize a system that has never stabilized us. We're not getting involved in that. We tried to tell you. You didn't just want to, you didn't want to hear it. See, Black people, we resting. And we're going to be resting for a long time until the Spirit moves us to do otherwise. And to my brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. No amount of bell ringing and finger wagging and pearl clutching and fake moral outrage from the Democratic Party or the liberal establishment or anybody else is going to get me off the bench. That trick is dead. The shame game is over. This is dangerous. This is unprecedented. This is outrageous. This is going to change America. That routine doesn't move us anymore. This is the what do they say? This is the election of a lifetime. Remember that vote or die? That was P. Diddy's thing. They put him in jail. So I don't care if it's the midterm or the half term or whatever it is. For my Black folks who are sitting on the couch, keep on sitting. For the Black folks who voting Republican, do what you do. For the Black folks voting Democrat, do what you do. I say vote your interests. That's the only advice I give. And if voting your interests means not voting at all because you don't want to be bothered, so be it. See, you can't scare people who've already been through everything. You're not going to scare Black people into voting for anybody. See, we know what power looks like when it's used against you. We know what hypocrisy sounds like when it lectures you. And we know panic when we hear it. Not panic because something is wrong, but panic because somebody's losing control. See, what you just watched over the past week or so, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't confusion. It was power. It was power exercised openly, unapologetically, and without asking permission. And whether you like Donald Trump or hate Donald Trump, whether you agree with every move or don't agree with anything, one thing is clear. The old rules about who gets to act, who gets to decide, who gets to define reality are changing right in front of your face. Now here's what Black people understand. Better than anyone else in this country. Nobody ever saved us out of moral concern. They didn't save us from slavery. They didn't save us from Jim Crow. They didn't save us from civil rights. None of that. Every inch of leverage we've gained came when power shifted. Not when we begged politely for approval from people who never respected us in the first place. So when they scream at you to be outraged, ask yourself who you outraged at. When they say this crosses the line, ask yourself whose line. When they tell you to get back in formation, ask yourself, formation for what and for whom? Black people are tired of being emotional shock absorbers for systems that don't protect us, that don't prioritize us, and don't fear losing us. Resting is not apathy. Resting is assessment. It's watching. It's listening. It's letting the mask slip, seeing who's panicking. When the old order starts to crack. And don't get it twisted. You're not going to be able to sing your preachers and give out some Sunday morning sermon, and these white liberals are not going to get on all these different channels and scold us with op-eds and get Black people to rush out and go back in and exhibit blind loyalty. Those days are over. We're not asleep. We damn sure not confused, and we are certainly not obligated, but we are watching. And whether they want to admit it or not, this is exactly why they're nervous. And before anybody starts crying rivers for Venezuela, let me remind you something else that I talked about that people rarely talk about. There have been international surveys that say that these folk have been openly hostile to black people in the form of anti-black racism. So I'm gonna reserve my sorry feelings for the next black man or woman who gets assassinated by the local sheriff or police department on the traffic stop. I'm gonna reserve my sorrow and sadness for the next black veteran who can't get treated at the VA. And I will suggest that before you black folk get out there feeling sorry or feeling outraged or going and protest as this injustice has happened to this man, you might want to feel sorry for yourselves and your ancestors who lived under systems just as cruel and just as dismissive, only nobody cared. So yeah, we still resting. And if the world feels uncomfortable now, that's not our emergency. That's just reality being felt by people who never believed us when we warned them in the first damn place. This is Uncle D. God bless you all. I love you.
In the Spurling podcast, hit the like button, subscribe.